Here we go again. Time to save her from the last of the Yanderes. Losing track of my OBS scenes. Where are you? Why am I losing track of you? Oh, go down far enough. Alright. Sorry about that. I can't imagine this is going to take full breadth of time that I was planning on. But, alas. It gets so lonely in here. We have locked. Yep. See, last time we drowned at the behest of a lovely mermaid who just wanted to take us home and keep us to herself. I'm still of the mind that Gravekeeper did nothing wrong. She's just sad and lonely and traumatized and thought that the only way she could keep us safe was to bury us alive. And God, that Gravekeeper around sad. There's still a fool. MC is quite cute indeed, but we need to free her. We very much need to free her from this heck. Now, we left off. Your fate is once again in your hands. Now, I wonder, which path will you take? We only have one more path left to take. How could you want to do harm to someone that adorable? I have a like, yeah, right? So true. I have a feeling that it is going to come down to the narrator being the secret fourth route is the narrator. Somehow. So, you want to go to the castle? Good idea. All decent fairy tales tend to conclude in castles once they're beleaguered, put upon heroines are finally able to wed the handsome princes they once dreamed of. Why bother trying your luck with a shore, which may very well be deserted, or the village which will be full of dirty, barefoot peasants? It is far better to skip the suffering and go straight to the grand finale. The Gravekeeper was way off base? I mean, yeah, but I suppose in a way both Gravekeeper and Mermaid were just, were way off base in their own ways, but, only slightly understand where she was coming from. I mean, in Gravekeeper's case, everyone she knows is dead and died horribly and slowly. So if she finds herself growing close to someone, then as a awkward, poorly adjusted coping mechanism, she could resort to the thing that she does well and bury us. Understandable. I for one forgive Gravekeeper. Handsome princesses, we sleep. Handsome princesses, real shit. Yes, I agree. Well, I agree on behalf of MC. It is far better to skip the suffering and go straight to the grand finale. That is very astute of you. I did not realize you had it in you to be so mercenary. I can only wonder what you will uncover during your moonlight meanderings. The night is far from over and your adventures are only just beginning. I hope only that you have brushed up on your curtsies. They might come in handy when one is interacting with a sovereign. Royals can be temperamental, after all. If you fail to treat them with a prerequisite amount of respect, You might come to regret it. You follow the path which leads to the castle, supporting yourself on weary, aching legs which feel ready at a moment's notice to detach from your hips. You're little more than a wisp of a girl, but you have been running for so very long, and your feet are so very numb. You feel like a great lumbering thing, clumsy and ungainly. The soles of your feet are screaming at you. You need to lie down, and quickly. Your only hope as you continue to run that you will find a spare room available for you in the castle. You do not know what exactly will await you at the castle, but you have visions as you run of a vast, opulent dwelling. Our MC is many things, but mercenary she is not. Yeah, you are correct. This dwelling will surely be full of finely furnished rooms in which you might rest your weary head. There must also be a king and a queen inside the castle, you ponder, who will be kind and wise. What of their children? What of a princess? Yep. Every good castle must possess a princess who will take pity on you in your plight. You can imagine the face of this generous princess with ease, thanks to the fairy tales you read in abundance as a small child. See? You called it. Her mind went straight to the princess. The princess will be fair of hair and blue of eye, with soft pink lips pursed like rosebuds. Her limbs will be slender, her hands dainty and unsullied from physical labor, and her sensibilities will be sweeter than marzipan. She will be kind to you and compassionate, just like an older sister. You do not know what older sisters are like, though, or younger sisters for that matter. You are only guessing. You are not a complete fool, however, despite your tendency to daydream, and you do have a few reservations. Monarchs do not, as you know from voracious reading, have the best track record when it comes to caring for the peasantry. Was there not a very famous queen who once said, with a cavalier wave of her hand, that the hungry peasants in her kingdom should content themselves with cake if bread was not an option? Vive la France! Let them eat cake. You think that this might be a misquote, but the point still stands. Though royals are supposed to grant their subjects succor in their time of need, this does not always happen. In fact, it very rarely happens. Kings and queens and princesses and princes are just people at the end of the day, and they are subject to the same caprices that all humans are. They can also be careless and selfish and inconsiderate. There is no guarantee that this mythical princess of your imagination will help you. Why, there's no guarantee that this mythical princess exists at all. Still, you must try. Is this hope which keeps you going? Sound of the machine working? I forgot to turn that back on. In fact, it basically never happens. Yeah. It's an abject rare. It is an abject impossibility. You continue to run to the castle. It takes some time before you finally emerge from the woods, but finally you do it. How much time, you ask? I cannot answer that. Did I not say that time has begun to lose all its meaning? The forest is behind you now, at least, and all the awful nightmares which dwell within it. It is still cold, though, and foggy, and very, very dark. The sun has yet to rise. You can see the moon more clearly now, though, as it hangs above your head, round as any pearl, or orb, or crystal ball. Moonlight shines down upon the castle, which looms in front of you like a cliffside. Ooh! Castle theme. The stone edifice of the building is imposing, and it drowns you in shadows darker than the depths of the deepest ocean. The castle is not at all dark, though, not like the night sky above it. When you crane your head, you can see that there are lights flickering within, in the narrow, slitted windows. It would appear that somebody is home. The king and the queen, perhaps. What of their servants? What, perhaps more pressingly, of their guards? You half expect as you stand there that the armored knights will accost you for daring to approach the castle of King and Queen so-and-so. Do you not know your place, foolish peasant girl with the dirty skirt? Begone with you! You are not, of course, a peasant. Your family is a wealthy one, or rather they were, before your father made a series of poor financial decisions. Oh no! You do not look like a young lady right now, though, with your dirty face and your dirty skirt which is torn at the hem. If any guards were to take you for a vagrant, it would not be surprising. There is also the point that MC seems remarkably modern, running off into a world seemingly dominated by medieval fairy tales. Like a girl out of time. But though you stand there dithering, your filthy fingers hooked in front of your filthy skirt, you do not hear any cries. Nobody sounds the alarm. Lights might be on inside the castle, but there is nobody outside of its perimeter standing sentry. There is nobody to impede your entry, and the elaborate iron gates which are set into the vast stone walls about the castle's exterior are open, in just a crack. It would be a trivial matter to slip inside, and there is nobody to stop you. Why are you trembling now, you silly thing? You have come so very far, it would be an act of foolishness to turn around now. Go on, go! You inhale, perhaps in an attempt to screw up your courage, which has, at long last, begun to fail you. And then you step forwards. You slide between the wrought iron gates, as stealthily and as secretive as a thief, and cross a path which leads up to the hall, to the tall, imposing structure. The doomed doorway which leads into the castle itself, hewn from stone, is closed, but at a push of your palm it swings inwards. The door creaks alarmingly as it opens, the sound loud enough to split the silence like a thunderclap. You inhale at this and glance around, your eyes darting hither and thither. If there are any guards posted about the castle's grounds, they should have all been alerted by that sound. Will they come for you at long last? What will happen should they catch you? Will they throw you in the dungeons? That does not sound like a pleasant way to spend a night. At least you would have a roof over your head, though, and you would not have to keep walking. Your feet really do ache. You stand there for an indeterminate amount of time, your heart pounding a panicked, irregular rhythm in the base of your throat. But no matter how much time elapses, no guards come. You are thankful for your good luck, though it does make you wonder. Where is everybody? Why, it is almost as if all the people in the world have disappeared. Could you be the very last human left alive? You frown, then press your palm back against the door. You push less cautiously, this time heedless of the loud sound which splits the silence. There is no point in worrying about the guards, not when they might very well be non-existent. Your entry to the castle secured, you then take a few steps forward. The door swings shut behind you, and the resultant slam makes you jump. You did not expect it. Your heart knocks against your ribs, and with wild eyes, you glance about. You are standing in the vast entrance hall made of stone, which splits off into any number of passages. At the very end of the hall, meanwhile, there is a large, elaborate staircase, one which seems to extend to the heavens themselves. It is dark inside the hall, but there are numerous torches set in sconces in the stone wall, which are aflame. They offer some relief from the shadows. I see that word and I think scones. Or scones. Yeah, I just always have to catch myself there. Sconce. It's a very unique word. You can hear the faint sound of the wind outdoors as it moans against the castle's impervious walls. Oh! But you cannot hear any footsteps. You cannot hear any voices. You cannot, more importantly, hear any people. Maybe the castle is empty. If that is the case, though, then who lit these torches? It is a curious conundrum. Sconces for Hanses. Yes. You muster up what remains of your courage, then cry out, addressing the empty hall in a timorous voice which fails to properly fill up the space. Hello? Hello, you say, your eyes wide. Is anybody there? Your voice echoes through the vast, empty hall, but it is met, yet again, with silence. You cannot say you are too surprised, but it is somewhat disappointing. Not one to be deterred, you try again. Oh! Oh no! Freya alert! Freya, welcome! Welcome back, Freya! Freya, welcome. How is it going? Welcome back from hiatus. I need to remember my Nightbot. Shout out to What were you playing over there? What were you playing over there? I saw you were back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Love that monster so good, Don. Oh, good. Excellent. It is always a good time for loving monsters. Anyways, we are here. Never found an ending where he can regain his memories and humanity. But it's cool. It's fine. It's all right. Hey, it's fine. It's fine. Speaking of loving monsters, we are here. We're in a castle. We are lost in a castle. We are seeking out the last of our yanderes. No matter how loud your voice, however, it fails to reach any ears. Those of you who aren't familiar with this game is called "It Gets So Lonely Here" by ebi-hime. It is a game where your resident poor little meow meow girlfail, girl disaster, is fleeing. She has 3 paths to take. Each path leads to a doomed encounter with a yandere. Yeah. We have a mermaid, an innocent gravekeeper, and now we are on our final route. There is something connecting all 3 of these routes, though. We might be finding out once we get through this route. If anybody is here, they do not seem particularly sociable. That, or perhaps they simply cannot hear you. Also, the narrator is really sassy. Oh. Let's see. If I save here, I can show you the, yeah, we can jump back to the title screen briefly to show you the CGs. Mermaid. There she is. It seems like a vampiric dwelling. It really does. I say, we don't have any good CGs of the Gravekeeper, but also... She's so sad. I love Gravekeeper. Narrator hates Protag-chan so much. She does! They do! They do. I have my theory that the narrator is the secret 4th yandere. Narrator is secretly the 4th yandere. Because there is... I mean, I wouldn't call it not all there, Lilac. Gravekeeper was human, but thoroughly traumatized. Thoroughly traumatized. Could they be in another room? Yes, that must be it. You will never find that pretty fairy tale princess of your imagination if you stand idle, you know. It is time to get to work. Put those legs of yours to good use. Find your princess. Not knowing what else to do, is there anything else you can do? You begin to explore. You examine the rooms first on the ground floor of the castle, which are of a similar scale to the impressive entrance hall, large and richly furnished but utterly unoccupied. After some time of aimless meandering, encountering nobody save the ghosts of aeons past memorialized on portraits upon the walls, you muster the courage to ascend to the 2nd floor. This floor, too, you examine, wandering through a seemingly endless series of hallways until, at long last, you find a door which is ajar. Between the crack in the door and the jamb, you can see flickering light. Irregular, yes, but it is light nonetheless. Could it be from a fireplace? That would suggest, then, that this room is occupied, unlike all the others. Perhaps the kindly princess you dreamed of will be waiting you in this room. It is with a trembling hand that you press your palm against the door. You push it. Princess reveal? Room reveal? Then you step inside the bedchamber, which unveils itself to you. Shyly, you stand on the threshold of the chamber, much of your courage extinguished, and gasp. The bedroom itself is gorgeous. It is a chamber so luxuriant, not even the shadows can obscure the fine craft of the furniture within it, nor the rich patterns on the walls. It is the girl inhabiting the chamber, however, who truly takes your breath away. Oh, princess spotted? Princess spotted, she might be vampire. Sitting upon the velveteen sheets of the towering four posters, a girl in a sumptuous red gown who seems to be of a like age to you. You do not have a clear view of the girl's face. Her head is bowed, her gaze directed downward at her lap. You can tell from her hair, however, and from her slender calves, which protrude from the bottom of her, from beneath the hem of her dress, that she is very pretty. The girl's hair is golden, just like freshly cut wheat, but it is the red of her dress which truly captures your attention. She is so striking you cannot look away from her. She's got feet, she ain't no ghost. She's very... that doll jump scare. Looking... surprised doll. The girl is not alone in her chamber, either. She has a companion, though this companion is not half as so endearing as she. In her lap, perched upon her velvet skirt, is a doll. The doll's hair, like that of her mistress's, is golden, though much of it is hidden beneath a bonnet. So she's very gay? Yes! She's... yes! Correct. Protag is very gay. Lesbian's gay. The girl's adjusting the china teacup held in the doll's tiny hand, while the rim of the cup glints in the light which exudes from the fireplace. If the girls have a similar age to you, it seems strange that she would content herself by playing with dolls. And she's not too old for it. This girl would be more at home, you decide, at a ball, wearing an extravagant gown, speaking with wealthy noblemen, perhaps even princes. She should not be sitting in what you presume is her bedchamber, adjusting a teacup in a doll's hand. But you were not afforded much more time to stand there, marveling at the girl, because she turns. She raises her head. Then her eyes meet yours. You thought the girl pretty when you first observed her, sitting on the edge of her plush velveteen bed, examining her doll. Now she's looking at you, however, her face illuminated by the flames in the grate. You can see you were mistaken. She is not just pretty. She is beautiful. So much so, it is breathtaking. She looks as though she has stepped out of the pages of a picture book. She's simply too perfect to belong to this world. Perhaps she has some kind of vision, a waking dream, a hallucination. But no, she is none of these things. The doll on her lap is a cold, hard thing made of porcelain, and it is unflinchingly, reassuringly real. If she were a mirage, surely she would not be able to handle physical objects such as this. It is strange, though. The doll, though immaculately made, looks oddly imperfect when compared to the girl who is holding it. Yeah, it's a weird thing, Chris, about this, about our protagonist. Like, she comes from a, some place of class advantage, which lends that sort of judgment upon others. Like, we know she came from a rich upbringing, even though that said family's not doing very well right now. And she also came from a girls' school of some renown in and of herself, despite the fact that she's been horribly bullied at said school, which prompted her to run away in the first place. She is so startlingly beautiful, she even puts man-made representations of feminine charms to shame. The sight of her makes you feel rather weak. Knees weak, arms spaghetti. Mom spaghetti, you always have had a fondness for fair maidens, haven't you? You're rather hopeless when it comes to them. Even worse than a knight-errant from a courtly legend. Your aesthetic appreciation is not particularly ladylike, but, well, it's not every day a girl encounters an elegant beauty like this, attired in red, illuminated by the firelight. Suppose I can forgive you for this rudeness, as too can the girl. She does not seem to be the type to hold a grudge. Oh, the girl says in a voice that, surprisingly enough, is far less refined than her appearance. It is good to see you. I've been waiting. Hello, everyone. Hello, twin. How's it going? How's it going? Has she? That is news to you. You blink, perplexed. A response to the tip of your tongue, but you are unable to expel it into the ether. The girl is setting her doll aside. Then she stands, the hem of her dress swishing about her legs. Nimbly, like a ballerina, she canvases the space between you. Her room is so very large, there is quite a lot of space. Then takes your hands in her own. You must. The girl says, her eyes aglow with excitement. Be my new lady's maid. It's been a while, but it's such a relief that you finally arrived. I knew that you would. You'd never leave me alone. Not when you knew how long I was waiting. Oh, I'm so happy. The girl's good mood is contagious. So much so, you find yourself being swept away in it. I don't think it's unladylike to like fair maidens, though. I mean, true. I would say, I think that comment was more directed at the, openly gushing over fair maidens versus maintaining your composure and appreciating fair maidens. But we are not, alas, we are not maidenless today. You are tempted to accept any identity she might press upon you. You have never been a maid before, but you might not mind being this girl's maid. She does not seem like a poor mistress to serve. Not if she is always this kind. You have known her for like 2 minutes. You cannot mask that confusion, however, which flickers across your face. You are not a good enough actress, and in any case, this is all happening too quickly. Why, you barely know this girl. Why is she being so very familiar? It is with blank, bovine eyes that you examine this girl. That's a very stark descriptor. Kind of a mean descriptor. Your befuddlement is pronounced enough that even the girl, despite her good mood, notices it. She frowns. Then she says, her fingers sliding away from your own, Or am I mistaken? Are you not my new lady's maid after all? Disappointment in the girl's face is abundant. So much so, your heart clenches. You do not know her. She is still a stranger, but you are struck, all of a sudden, with the intense desire to appease her. You do not want to let her down. The thought is devastating. You are not aware, you tell her, that you had applied to be her maid, but if that is what she wills, you would not be opposed to it. You pray that she forgives you, though, for your discombobulation. You come from a distant country, and you have traveled for many miles. ASAP. That's... Chris, does that stand for assigned servant at birth? Oh. You know not where you are, and you do not know who she is. What? You don't know who I am? All Sims are basil. It is regrettable, you tell her, but no, you do not know her. Though that is no fault of her own. Assigned sub at birth. Okay, that works too. Assigned sub at birth. I love that. It's so true. It's so true in her case. Why, you had spent such a long time running, you hardly even know yourself. Ah, so you are a fugitive then, from another country. I see. I won't pry into your past then, if you'd rather forget about it. I don't mind sharing my past with you, though. Everybody in this country knows who I am, after all, or at least they should. Almost went for a signed bottom at birth. Now, this is quite the impressive boast. If it were to come from the lips of another, you would find it unpleasantly arrogant. You do not think, however, that this girl is trying to show off. You get the feeling instead that she is merely telling the truth. If you don't have the pleasure of knowing me, then allow me to do the honors. My father and my mother were the king and queen of this realm, and I am its princess. I've lived in this castle all my life, so I don't know much about the outside world, but I know that the other countries do exist out there. I presume it is from one of those foreign countries that you come from. It is very good to meet you. I've always wanted to talk to someone from overseas. It feels like quite the opportunity. The girl giggles at this, and you smile in response. You tell her, unthinkingly, that it is your pleasure, really, to meet her, or at least you mean to. You only get halfway through this remark when the full gravity of what the girl has told you sinks in. Come to a stop. Then you stare. Did she just say she was a princess? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. We have our dream come true. Yes, that's right. I'm a princess, and one day I'll be a queen, after I've done a little bit of growing up. My ministers don't think I'm ready to run the country just yet, but I've been doing my best at my lessons. One day I'm sure I'll be the best queen there ever was. So, she really is a princess. That makes sense, you suppose, given she lives in the castle, but it comes as a surprise regardless. You hadn't known before you entered this chamber that you were trespassing on a lady of such great renown. Why, if she willed it, she could have you executed for your carelessness. An ugly red flush creeps up in your face, a flush which is far more lurid than the princess's dress, as you look to your feet. Bashfully, you stammer out a new address, that you are very sorry for intruding on her, and you hope she can forgive you. Oh, it's all right. Think nothing of it. I don't mind, really. We all make mistakes. And anyway, you weren't to know. You said you weren't from around here. You nod your head in silent affirmation. It isn't a complete lie. You really are not from this country. You're not from this world, after all. Oh? How wonderful. I'll look forward to picking your brain later. All my servants come from the nearby village. Their tales are all the same, and so are their superstitions. You could do with a breath of fresh air. So in a sense, we really did sort of run away from our school, from someone, into this fairy tale-like world, which is distinctly a different world from whence we came. Interesting. That's all but explicit confirmation at this point. My last lady's maid told me I was too impetuous, but I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting a bit of adventure. Why is your castle so empty then? I wonder if, like, all three of these locations are tied together. We know that a plague wiped out the village. And, the girl who the mermaid was so obsessed with came from the village and disappeared all of a sudden. Did she die in the plague? Was the castle wiped out by the plague? Are all these three worlds and timelines connected? Not that I've ever been afforded much of that. I've been shut up in here for so long, I hardly ever get the chance to talk to other girls my age. Perhaps. My last lady's maid was older than me, and so was the one before her and the one before her. So the princess's fair mood seems to dissipate as she speaks, her expression turning by degrees into something rather more pensive. But I haven't seen any of my old lady's maids in a while, or any of the other servants for that matter. So they've all disappeared. So the castle is distinctly empty. Now that is quite curious. How could a whole household full of servants simply disappear? That I don't know. This castle was full of servants once. My lady's maids, and my undermaids, and my scullery maids, and my housekeeper, and my cooks, and a large retinue of retainers. They're all gone now, though. I think my ministers have sent them away. Don't know why they would have done that, though. They didn't explain it to me. Then again, they never explained anything to me. They still treat me like a little girl. That's a lot of maids. Yeah, it is so tiring. You said that her ministers sent her servants away? What are her parents, the king and queen? Would they not be the ultimate authorities of the castle's hierarchy? Are they dead? They would, yes, if they were still alive, but they're not. They died a long time ago. I was raised for most of my life by my servants. Ah. Oh, you answer, and then you flush. The ministers are planning a coup. You hadn't known. They're never going to turn over the crown. It's all right. You don't need to apologize. I'm just happy that I have you now. I was getting sick and tired of only having my dolls to speak to. They aren't the best conversation partners. You can imagine so, yeah. You doubt any doll, even one made by a talented artisan with an intelligent face indistinguishable from a human's, would be very good at answering back. Oh no, they aren't. They're hopeless at it, really, and they're so stony-lipped. You've no idea how much of a relief it is to see you. The castle is so big, and without my servants it feels so empty. So very empty. It gets so lonely here. There's the title drop. We got our title drop of the round. Now that is an interesting turn of phrase. And catches inside your head like a burr. That's the inevitable title drop on each route. And each time it is followed by these two sentences. Now that is an interesting turn of phrase. It catches inside your head like a burr. Have you heard it before? You do not have much time to ponder this, however, because the princess is speaking anew, in that curiously conversational manner of hers, which does not seem particularly princessy. Maybe she learned how to speak from her servants. That would explain why her consonants are so unrefined. Oh, but listen to me yammering on again. It's a bad habit. I really must put a stop to it. You're probably tired, dear one, from your travels. Would you like me to show you to your room? Yes, the princess announces before you can say anything in reply. I think I'll do just that. Might show you a bit around the castle first, though. It's like a maze in here, and I wouldn't want you getting lost. You'll be staying here for quite some time, after all. Oh. Let's go. The princess then hastens to take you on a tour of her home. Fortunately, she does not show off all the rooms in her abode. And neither does she offer overly long descriptions as to what the few rooms she does show you are used for. She does, however, pause by the kitchens, whereas she offers you some victuals. Once the growling in your belly has been satisfied, the princess then resumes her journey. How nice of her. She leads you down a dark, twisting hallway and up a series of equally dark, twisting steps until she arrives at long last before a door. The princess pushes the door aside summarily, thus permitting you entrance to a small, humble bedchamber. The chamber is not half so opulent as the grand bedroom in which the princess resides, with its resplendent four-poster and its richly patterned wallpaper. This room's ceiling is not as high, and the singular bed shoved against the wall is thin and narrow. Walls are an unassuming beige, and the floor beneath your soles is of warped wood. There is a malodorous scent, too, which hangs in the air, one of disuse and general decay. A must. You get the feeling that nobody has slept in this room for quite some time. That might explain why it feels so very cold in here. Though if the princess's tour of her castle has taught you anything, it is that it is cold in every room in her abode. Now, here we are, the final stop of our tour. This will be our room, dear one. I hope it's to your liking. The princess, despite her exalted status, looks somewhat uneasy as she observes you, her eyes upturned like those of a loyal dog's. Is she concerned about your reaction to this room? Perhaps she is afraid that you will turn your nose up at her kindness. For a princess, she is awfully eager to please. This unexpected contrast between the princess's lofty title and her ingratiating attitude makes you smile. She is rather eager to please, I can see that. If somebody were around to offer me food, victuals, like. But realistically, though, it's consider this your encouragement to go get something to eat if you need it, and drink. Stay hydrated, and take care of yourself. It has a roof and 4 walls, and though it is cold, you fancy you will feel warmer once you have slipped beneath the bed sheets. The room is not quite so fancy as your dormitory at the Conservatoire, and neither is it so large. It does have one glaring improvement over your previous lodgings. You will not be expected to share it with anybody else. There's only one bed in this room, and this bed is to belong to you. You think that the peace and quiet will do you a world of good. You tell the princess as much, and she smiles. Oh, that's good. I was worried you wouldn't like it. I know it isn't much to look at, but it's one of the nicest servants' rooms we have in this castle. Most of the maids sleep beneath the roof, in this teeny tiny room, which is all cramped. There's 10 beds up there, and they're so close together there's barely any room to pass between them. I thought it was perfectly ghastly when I saw it. The last time I went up there, not that I was supposed to be up there. It was a rainy day and I couldn't go outdoors, so I was doing a bit of exploring. If the housekeeper had known I'd been skulking around, I don't think she would have been best pleased. In any case, nobody sleeps up there anymore. The scullery maids are all gone now. It's not like she's been alone for a while, so it's no wonder she wants to make a good impression. I couldn't put you up there, though, in the attic with all those empty beds. I didn't think it'd be very cheery. Yeah, she very clearly wants to make a good impression. You're not just a scullery maid. You're my lady's maid. That means you deserve good lodgings. It would be an insult to offer you any less than this. We're in the top 1% of maids. Now it's getting late. You have to forgive me for rabbiting on. I've heard it's something I tend to do. It's a bad habit, one that's unbecoming for a lady. I think it's quite charming. The housekeeper's warned me enough times. You reassure the princess to the contrary, smiling as you do. You do not mind if she talks too much. That is better than not talking at all. Her affable nature makes it easier to spend time with her. Manners be damned. You were always scolded, too, back in the conservatoire for your behavior. You know full well how aggravating it can be to be upbraided. Not for any particular misdemeanor, but for being yourself. But I'm glad you understand, the princess answers with a giggle. I really should be off, though. It's bad manners to keep you, especially when you look so sleepy. Each of these routes also seems to be a reflection of something that our protag went through back at the conservatoire. Like, the mermaid is an expression of jealousy, possessiveness, a desire to be valued. Unfortunately, you don't have much in the way of food around here. Oh no! Get some rest. We can talk more tomorrow, if you don't mind my ceaseless prattle. I'm glad you seem to appreciate it, at least. Though I'm sure you'll get tired of it eventually. All my old maids did. Princess departs, and in her absence you take a seat upon the bed. Your new bed. You cannot help but think this is all happening very quickly. It does not seem like very long ago that you were still in the forest, running for your life amongst the tall, imposing trees with their gnarled and grasping branches. The forest might as well be a distant memory now, though. You are indoors, inside a castle no less, and you have been given a room in which to sleep and clothes that you might wear. It seems premature still to declare that you are out of the woods. In a metaphorical sense, I mean, but things could certainly be worse. You force yourself to stand on legs which feel too weary to support you, and change into the night clothes hanging in the wardrobe. The night clothes do not fit you perfectly, but you are too tired to care about that. You are too tired to care about much of anything. You retreat to the bed and slide beneath its sheets. Then you let your eyelids fall shut. You exhale. And, lulled by the breeze which blows outdoors, you fall asleep. You are so very tired, your sleep is a deep, dark one, darker even than the furthest abysses of the nighttime. Like the nighttime sky, however, which shimmers with stars, your sleep is not devoid of those prismatic fragments your humans call dreams. Though in this case, I rather think your nocturnal imaginings are worth rather more than that. They are not dreams, are they, to which your slumbering mind is subjected? You know that they are not. Otherwise, your body would not be so very cold, not so clammy. The images that flicker beneath your closed eyelids, like the ghostly images in a oh god. In a phenakistoscope. 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 Phenakist. Phenak. Phenax. Phenakistos. A phenakistoscope were not conjured from within your mind. They were, instead, taken from your memories. I'm telling you, she comes from a high-class position of wealth and privilege. He's in a very, like, in a conservatoire of high status and wealth. Conservatoire is a university of sorts specializing in performing arts, which is intriguing. And that is... a phenakistoscope. Oh. It's an old animation device that created a fluent illusion of motion. Ah. It just shows a short, continuous loop in a circular pattern of sorts. Intriguing. Anyways, memories. You are not merely dreaming, you are remembering. Remember the girls who slept in your dormitory, and how they always hastened to use the shower first, so you were last for breakfast. Remember how, when you finally did arrive at the dining hall, the most desirable morsels had already been snapped up by the girls who got there earlier. You struggled, too, to find a seat. Once you finally did get your hands on some food, because nobody ever wanted to sit with you. The other girls all acted like you were a leper, save for when they wanted favors. They never asked for these favors, mind, for why would they? To them, your father's prestige did not matter. They were all wealthy ladies, too, many of them wealthier than you. When everybody has the airs and graces of a princess, how is anybody supposed to stand out? You stood out the least in your class, perhaps because you were the one of the smallest, the frailest, the sickliest, who always came down with colds in the winter. Oh, one of the fountains of Fata Morgana? Ah! Your poor health did not stop the other girls from treating you as a servant, though. They remembered that you existed, of course. It was your lot in life as you dwelt within the stone walls of the conservatoire, to carry school bags across the field like a pack mule. Then come the evenings, the girls in your dormitory had you sewing on missing buttons and ironing out the creases and wrinkles in their uniforms. If there was an odd job that needed performing, you would always be asked. But these girls did not ask you. That would have been too civilized. They ordered you instead. And as they ordered you, they laughed at you. They laughed and they laughed and they laughed. The laughter hurt, but it hurt considerably less than the kicks did and the slaps and the pinches. Oh. Once, during an embroidery lesson, one of your classmates had an accident with her sewing scissors. Oh, God! She stumbled, or at least she pretended to, and before you knew it, the silvery blades of those scissors were embedded in your left palm. This happened quite some time ago when you were even littler than you are now, but you can still remember it. It hurt a lot. The scissors were sharp and they perforated your skin, and all the way down to the bone, but enough to bleed. Your wound bled bright red, like strawberry jam all over your embroidery. Then when your professor saw it, she shrieked. Her face turned as pale as whey when she looked for a few moments as though she might faint. But you were the one who was in pain. The professor looked at your face. She could not bear to look at your hand, and demanded to know why you could not be more careful. Oh, no. Her tone had been an accusatory one, almost as if you had stabbed yourself in the hand with your scissors to goad her. The pain in your hand hurt, but the giggles of your persecutors hurt all the more. Never were punished for that. Perhaps your professor did not care enough to punish them. Perhaps she, like everybody else, thought it was all your fault. The wound, when all was said and done, was not too deep. You did not even need any stitches. It healed well enough in time on its own, though it still left a scar, a white raised thing like a crescent moon. You still have that scar. You do not know how much blood you lost. seemed like a lot back in the classroom. You could smell it in the air, sharp as iron, but it could not have been that much, evidently. If your wound had been more serious, perhaps your professor might have cared. Perhaps your classmates, too, would have felt some modicum of guilt over what they did. This seems very unlikely. Know that your blood meant nothing to your classmates. Why should it? If you meant nothing, next to nothing, then the blood in your veins was, if such a thing was possible, even more inconsequential. Oh boy, so yeah, each route we find a situation, we go to sleep, we have a nightmare about our past. And mermaid route is your avant-garde day-to-day bullying. I think the specific memory was being pushed into a fountain and dropping all of our books in the fountain. We have this route with a very accelerated abuse, speedrunning abuse, top tier bullying and abuse, fucking stabbed you in the hand and just got away with it unpunished. Good God, that's awful. And then the Gravekeeper route was possibly even more painful than just being straight up chided and made fun of and kicked and punched and hurt physically. They played the old metaphorical death bullying tactic and just completely disregarded your existence, and that hurt even more. You do not remember what you dreamt, but you do not think that your dreams were of a particularly pleasant nature. Oops. If they were, your heart would not be hammering, so ill at ease you glance around. You're lying in a narrow bed in an unremarkable room, one with dull beige walls and a warped wooden floor. Where exactly are you? This does not look like your dormitory in the conservatoire, not unless it has shrunk threefold overnight. Your brow furrows as you attempt to recall the events of the night prior, until, with a gasp, it all clicks into place. You remember now. You're running through the woods, trying to escape from... You shudder. You do not want to think of what it was you were trying to escape from. Presume that you must have given your hunter the slip, though, because you are still in one piece, awake and alert enough to face the dawning of the new morning. You still have all your limbs, and your facial features appear to be in the correct configuration. That is more than enough to be getting along with. That is an interesting line there. Was that a concern previously? You look to the foot of your bed, then blink, bemused at your discovery. You can see, lying upon the sheets, a garment. 2 garments, actually, of black and white, folded into a neat white square. What could that be? A maid's outfit? If so, it would not be too surprising. You can now recall your visit with the princess the night prior, and her assertion that you must be her lady's maid. If that was the role she wants you to assume, you have no qualms with it. It is far preferable to the other role you played last night, that of a startled quarry running from its pursuer. You press your fingers against the humble maid's attire. It feels surprisingly soft to the touch, not coarse like you expected. These clothes are rather fine. Did the princess put them there? If so, that is all the more reason to wear them. You are not churlish enough to deny her hospitality. You rise from your new bed, then undress yourself, unbuttoning the front of your plain white nightgown and setting it aside. This task accomplished, you then clad yourself in your new attire. Black, white, and eminently sensible. You feel very far away from the girl that you once were. Your face might be the same as always, but something within you seems to have changed. You are no longer a student, not as long as you mean to reside within the princess's castle. You would far rather be her servant. Assured of your newfound identity, you retreat from your chamber, then make your way to your mistress's bedroom. The castle is a large one with many, many rooms and many, many hallways to connect them, and for a brief while you find yourself horrendously lost. You cannot remember where the princess's bedroom is. Oh no! You're beginning to feel rather disoriented when, to your relief, your eyes snag upon a stairwell which looks rather familiar. Could this be the way? You ascend these steps, your footfalls cushioned by the plush carpet with which lines them, then find your way down the very same hall you traversed the night prior. If your memory does not fail you, then the princess's bedroom ought to be. Yes, it is here. You rap upon the door, but receive nothing in the way of a response. Is the princess still abed? Wonder, briefly, whether you oughtn't wait until she has risen of her own accord. But no. The sun is high in the sky. It would seem a shame to let the princess sleep through the day. You ought, instead, to rouse her. It seems like the sort of duty a lady's maid should attend to. Enter the princess's bedroom and glance about. Her room looks much the same as you remember it from the night prior, but the ceiling seems even higher than when viewed in the warm morning's light. You can see now that there are fewer shadows to impede your view, how very opulent your young mistress's abode is. Her armoire is large and imposing, as is the grate in which you will be expected to keep a fire lit during the nights. The princess herself, meanwhile, is curled on her side beneath the sheets, looking rather less grandiose than her title would suggest. She's attired in a nightgown adorned with frills, and her hair is split across her pillow like spilled gold. In her slender arms, meanwhile, held to her chest is a doll, the very same one she was cassetting last night. You suppose this doll must be her favorite. Idly, you wonder what the doll's name is, though you do not suppose it matters all that much. It's time to wake your mistress. You call out to the princess, but she is largely unresponsive. Her eyeballs are still sewn tightly shut, and her lips pursed in slumber. You purse your lips, too, and sigh. Well, nobody ever said your job would be easy. Once again, you call to the princess, and this time she replies. Her response is not a favorable one, however. She sighs, then turns away from you, her doll clutched to her chest. Just give me a little longer. Princess sounds so enfeebled, but you do not take pity on her. Young lady, you are getting up. If you have learned anything from the conservatoire, save for knowledge pertaining to the respiratory tracts of fish, is that one must be cruel to be kind. You do not think this adage was practiced with any great success at the conservatoire, but perhaps it will have more of an impact upon the princess. You tell her, once again, to wake up, more sternly this time. You will not let her sleep, for she has slept long enough already. It is very slovenly, really, to be abed at this hour. Oh. Defeated, the princess sighs. All right, I see that I can see that I can't twist you around my little finger. Oh, I'm up. You don't need to nag me. Oh no. Precious. Once you have roused the princess from her bed and you have put her doll to one side, you set her upon her toilette. You aid the princess in the brushing of her hair, a chore to which she submits willingly, like a cat might allow its fur to be brushed. You allow yourself to ponder as you run the bristles of the princess's brush through her hair. How wonderfully soft it feels against your skin. But a curious query from the princess, "Oh, you're right, dear one," brings you back to your senses. You were rather lost in thought there. Look lively now. You wouldn't want the princess to catch wind of your salacious thoughts, would you? I thought that you had learned your lesson about that already. Suitably chastised, you finish with the princess's hair, then set the brush aside. Taking all the wrong lessons of your education. Yeah, honestly. I mean, it doesn't sound like that great a place for her, to be perfectly honest. Alright, now, time to start with her attire. The princess remains seated upon the edge of her bed, looking up at you askance. She does not ask you to avert your eyes, and nor does she make any motion of divesting herself of her nightgown. It really does seem as though she expects you to undertake this task on your own. Is that all right? You asked the princess as much. You would not wish to impinge upon her modesty, but she only laughs. Yes, that's all right. It's what you're supposed to do if you're to be my lady's maid. I'm used to being dressed and undressed. I'm not a bit squeamish about it. She might not be squeamish about it, but you are. You've never seen a naked woman before accepting yourself. Even then, however, you have always dressed and undressed furtively, not wanting to examine your body for longer than is strictly necessary. You never much liked the way that you look. Body image issues? Oh dear. You make a few more mumbled objections, but the princess sweeps them to one side easily. It's all right. I might be a princess, but we're both people underneath all of our clothes. I doubt we look much different. You are not sure about that. You have not yet seen the princess unadorned, but you already know, to look at her face, that you are different. She is much, much prettier than you are, but she is waiting, and you do not wish to keep her any longer. You steady your nerves. Then you reach out with trembling hands and begin to undo the buttons which run down the front of the princess's nightgown. You work as quickly as you are able, which, given how badly your hands are shaking, is not very... You fumble with a couple of buttons, flinching as you do so. The princess, however, seems blissfully unaware of what it is exactly you are doing, or not doing, for your fingers have begun to seize up with the front of her nightgown. She's not even looking at you. Instead, her gaze is directed beyond your shoulder, to the windowsill and the sky beyond it. It isn't particularly sunny. I don't think it's too cold outside. Going for a walk might not be a bad idea. What do you think, dear one? You think that you would like to finish undressing the princess as soon as possible so you can make some progress on dressing her again. The sight of all this exposed skin is bad for your heart. Salacious indeed. Fortunately, you are able to make quick work of the princess's nightgown despite your initial mishaps, spurred on, perhaps, by your anxiety. You bid the princess to stand, which she does, and neatly she steps out of her nightgown, motions, once again, as graceful and fluid as a dancer's. This task completed, you search hurriedly, worriedly, for the princess's red dress. Where is it? You cannot find it. Sweat begins to prickle on the back of your neck. Your palms, meanwhile, feel uncomfortably clammy. Moments pass awkwardly, uneasily, as you search. The princess standing there all the while, as naked as the day she was born. Why did you not find her day dress before you stripped her of her night one? What a fool you are! The princess, nothing noting your panic, giggles, then says, Are you looking for my dress? Yes, you reply, your face flushed. That is what you were doing. I thought so. I did wonder, before you started undressing me, why you'd not asked where it was. Maybe it slipped your mind. It had slipped your mind, yes, to your shame. You were too busy trying not to fixate upon the princess's bared skin to think about how best to conceal it. My dress is in my armoire, the princess says, glancing over the aforementioned piece of furniture. That armoire of hers is an intricately carved wooden structure, large enough, or so you estimate, to fit it inside it enough dresses to attire a woman's whole ballroom's worth of princesses. I like to wear the red one. It's my favorite. Would you be a dear and fetch it for me? I don't want to rush you, but it is rather cold in here, especially while I'm still naked. She raises a good point. You turn away from the princess and make your way to her armoire. Once there, you open its wooden doors and peruse the clothes hanging within. It's just as you expected. Inside that wardrobe lies numerous dresses, all of them finely sewn and decorated with no shortage of ribbons, lace, and iridescent pearls. You find the princess's red dress soon enough, then hurry to her side. Ooh! With your spoils in hand, you hurry to dress her, concealing once again the princess's pale skin beneath layers upon layers of soft red velvet. She is easy to look at now, you think, with her skin concealed. That might have been the most nerve-wracking task you have ever had to accomplish, even more so than your perilous escape through the foggy forest. Running for my life? Bad. Undressing a hot princess? Oh God. Why, it seems a small miracle you can still remember how to breathe. Ah, that's much better. Thank you, dear one, for your help. You've not been here for a full day, but I already wonder what I'd do without you. Shyly, you assure the princess that you did nothing, really, and nothing beyond your job. You did not do anything incredible. And in any case, being complimented by somebody so pretty is embarrassing. Again, she finds herself very desperate for genuine praise, and she's very weak to genuine praise. And very doubtful of it. Oh, don't be like that. I want to compliment you. Why shouldn't I when you've been so helpful? It'd be rude not to, and anyways. I think you're very pretty too. Oh my. Your face flushes from this more deeply than ever before. You ought to count yourself lucky, really, but with all this excessive blushing that the princess does not seem to possess any vampiristic tendencies. Funny you mentioned that. She is in fact up in the daylight, so... Vampire, unconfirmed. Running from predators. Calm. Dressing a princess. Panic. You are making yourself quite the easy target. Now, the princess declares, why don't we go for a walk? It's a nice enough day, and I get so very bored of being cooped up inside. I can't think of any particular objections to raise to this remark, and you think that the princess might have a point. The castle, though expansive, is somewhat stifling. The walls are so very thick, they put you in the mind of a crypt. With your acquiescence assured, the princess quits her chamber, her posture elegant and her gait unhurried. What a disaster lesbian, indeed. She seems not to walk, as she navigates her way through the seemingly endless hallways of her home, but to float like a cloud. The hem of her dress swishes around her legs, and her hair shifts like a shroud. The castle's courtyard, meanwhile, is sadly lacking in comparison to the princess's beauty. Unless the narrator is one. That's still up in the air. That is still on the bingo card. The courtyard is fenced in by the castle's walls, which look, in the stark midday light, tall and imposing, faceless soldiers standing sentinel. Although the sun is out, it is not particularly bright, and neither is it particularly warm. The courtyard itself, meanwhile, is in a state of disarray. The flower beds are in shambles, all overgrown with weeds. Yet there is no one here to take care of the place anymore. It is all rather depressing. The princess's castle might be grand in scale, but the courtyard itself is simple, hemmed in to a claustrophobic degree like a coffin. The princess, however, seems not to share your dolorous mood. She instead looks elated by her newfound surroundings, her smile unwavering. She gambols about like a lamb, flitting hither and thither as she examines the weed-infested flower beds. Her frolicking comes to a cease, however, by a bush. One is full of bright red roses. Oh, how very pretty. Do not think they are gorgeous, dear one? The flowers are not too disappointing, you suppose. Rose, they make for a fine spectacle, in fact. A welcome splash of color when contrasted with the dullness and drabness which permeates the rest of the courtyard. Though the other flowers in their beds are wilted, withered things, it is not so for these roses. They are a rich bright red, just like blood, their heads so full they seem almost to droop beneath the weight of their own engorged petals. They are pretty in a sense. There is something unsettling about them too. Something that is almost obscene. How did those roses become so very red? What has been sustaining them? Could it be possible that these roses have been draining the life of the other flowers which are struggling to grow within this garden? It is a fanciful thought, but... Garden is just a little Fata Morgana? Very much Fata Morgana. Like the whole abandoned castle vibe. The whole abandoned castle thing has a unique vibe to it, which I'm digging. Oh, they are simply divine. Looking at these roses always lifts my spirits. They really are my most favorite flowers. I simply must pick some of them. Perhaps I can use them to decorate my bedchamber. It could use a bit of color. She is a fan of the color red. It just reaches out so as to pluck one of the roses free from its resting place amongst its brethren. You watch her, your breath bated, anxious that this gesture might result in perforated flesh and bright red blood. But the princess is not as clumsy as you fear. Of course she is not. Who'd you think she was? You? Hey now. Rather than worrying about other people, you would be better served if you worried more about yourself. The princess holds her newly pilfered rose to her nose and inhales, her eyelids falling shut as the flower's sweet scent washes over her. A few moments of silence pass. Then the princess begins to toy with the petals which adorn the flower's crown. Now let me see. I wonder what fate has in store for me. She loves me. The princess plucks a petal from the flower's overburdened head. She loves me now. The princess continues with this childish incantation, all while stripping her rose slowly and methodically of its petals. Should I be concerned by this action? These petals flutter about like the princess, like bloody snow. The princess's voice, meanwhile, echoes throughout the courtyard, even more melodic than the strains of a pianola. She loves me. She loves me not. She loves me. She loves me not. The princess's fingers hover over the final petal which crowns her nearly denuded flower. Then with a triumphant smile, she declares, She loves me. I knew it. You watch the princess, amused by your girlish good cheer. The little mantra she has been reciting is one that you are familiar with. The girls of the conservatoire also used to engage in this little game. The younger ones, at least, who believed that a fairy tale prince would whisk them away. You might have participated in this game yourself, when you were a child yourself. But you never pinned your hopes and dreams on a handsome prince. Now a handsome princess, on the other hand. If you recall, the castle in Fata Morgana was a lot dingier. Michelle had to shut out the light on account of his sensitive skin. That is true. That is true. Then, and yeah, there is a lot of light coming into the castle. Despite the very almost claustrophobic walls, it still does get a lot of light. But I do agree. I do remember the home in Fata Morgana being a lot darker overall. Your interest in princesses has always been minimal. When it comes to fair princesses, though, yep. Well, that is a different matter altogether, isn't it? Presently, you ask the princess whose love it is she wishes to court, a query which makes the princess giggle. Oh, dear one, who else would I be thinking of? Naturally, I was thinking of you. Oh, well, naturally. She says it so easily, as though you ought to have suspected as much, and indeed, part of you did. You wanted to believe, yet part of you was afraid to. You did not want to be arrogant enough to assume that the princess might care for your affections. You begin to blush, your cheeks almost as red as the roses, while the princess laughs. She laughs and she laughs and she laughs, her voice clear and sweet like a nightingale's song, as though you were the funniest thing she's ever seen. You never liked being laughed at when you dwelt within the walls of the conservatoire, but it is different with her. You have not known her for all that long, but you are already entranced by her, ensnared. She has you wrapped around her little finger. Oh my. Princess's laughter tapers off into a series of giggles as, smiling, she wipes her eyes with the back of her hand. It was quite the amusing diversion, but I've just had an idea. You look at the princess curiously. What idea? You can't tell? You cannot even begin to guess. I just thought that all this watching must be boring you, the princess says, tossing the rose's stripped stem carelessly to the ground. You should give it a try. Please do. It'll be fun. The princess retrieves a second red rose from the bushes, and deftly snapping it between her fingers, and offers it to you. I want to see what fate has in store for you, too. You smile at the princess, touched by her enthusiasm. Indulging in childish games like this might not be the best use of your time, but the princess looks so very determined that you would not wish to hurt her. What could be the harm, really, in consenting? The only real casualty of this game would be one singular rose, a rose that the princess is holding toward you. Reach out, meaning to accept the princess's offering, but... Oh no! You are clumsy, and you seize the stem of the rose with a touch of too much strength. The head of the rose might be pretty, but there is more to a rose than its bright red flowers. Roses have thorns, too, a fact that you are now being painfully reminded of. Pain flares through your finger, and you gasp. Take a step back, the hem of your skirt swishing around your ankles. Finger is stinging, and so are your eyes. You ought to have been more careful. Why were you so stupid? Hey. You poor dear, you're bleeding. You're so easily smitten. The princess exclaims, alarmed. Then she frowns. This is all my fault. If I had not suggested this silly game, this never would have happened. Please, let me take care of you. And how is she going to do that? Perhaps she means to take a handkerchief from her pocket, with which she might staunch her wound. Princesses tend to carry handkerchiefs around with them, don't they? Silken ones. How else would they give the brave knights tokens of their gratitude, once these aforementioned knights have successfully slain dragons? Princesses can hardly dispense kisses as favors. It is simply not done. That's what you always thought, but... Please, hold still. This might sting a little bit. This princess is anything but ordinary. Rather than take a handkerchief out of her pocket, she instead encloses her white, slender fingers round your hand. Carefully, as though she is handling a precious object, she raises your hand. Her eyes are fixed all the while on the beads of startlingly crimson blood which are oozing luridly from your wound. She licks her lower lip. Yes, she is crushingly low. Down bad, easily smitten, crushingly low self-esteem. That's why she's weak to any sort of praise whatsoever. Any sort of affection shown to her that might be remotely genuine. So desperate to just be cared about genuinely by someone. Then she dips her head. Ah! She parts her mouth with a soft sigh which borders on sensuous. She slips your injured digit in between her teeth. So much for princesses not dispensing kisses as tokens of appreciation. This might not be a conventional kiss, but it feels intimate regardless. Almost startlingly so. The princess's lips, which are as red as any rose, are enclosed around your index finger. You can feel the warmth of the princess's mouth around your skin and the wetness of it. These sensations make your whole body quake. You did not expect this. Tremulously, in a voice which wavers, you ask the princess what it is she is doing. Oh? The princess glances up at you, her mouth still enclosed around your finger. Didn't I tell you? I'm trying to stop the bleeding. Yes, you gathered as much, but is there a problem? I'm not making you uncomfortable, am I? It is not, you say. That she is making you uncomfortable, per se, but this is rather awkward. You did not expect it, that is all. And is she not worried that this is unhygienic? Unhygienic? Princess blinks. She is the very picture of innocence, which is funny, really. Even your finger is still nestled against her tongue. I don't know what you mean by that exactly. I've heard this is the best way to take care of cuts. My nursemaid used to do this for me when I was a child. It's what you're supposed to do. And you ask, your voice catching in your throat, did her nursemaid keep staunching her wounds with her mouth when she grew older? Well, no, but my nursemaid was dismissed when I was 8 years old. That's the normal way of things. I had my lady's maids to look after me then. How very interesting. Did they ever clean her wounds like this? No, the princess says, smiling mischievously. Because I'm not clumsy enough to cut myself, silly. Now, that was quite the sharp retort. You did not expect it. Your face turns even redder. Such a thing is possible, though this might perhaps be to your benefit. With some luck, all of your blood will flow to your face, rather than to your finger, and your bleeding will stop. Has it stopped? Your injury was not a deep one. There should be no need for the princess to keep on suckling, but she still is. We're not accustomed to the intimacy of this nature. It is making your heart flutter. If the princess knew what her mouth was doing to you, you are sure she would not be so very familiar. You feel quietly, crushingly confident that she would scorn you for your feelings and deem them unnatural. It would not be the first time. At this point, you should be used to rejection. It still stings, though. It stings much, much more than any thorn on any rose ever could. The days pass, following your misadventures in the rose garden in a relaxed, unhurried sort of manner. Your mad dash through the forest is beginning to feel like a distant memory. So much so that you can scarcely recall the raw, naked fear you once felt as you fled for your life. There is no running to be had while you are working with the princess. You would have nowhere else to run, and in any event, there is no longer any reason to run. The shadows which once tormented you have at long last begun to recede. You can scarcely recall, as you lay down in your bed, the petty cruelties you were subjected to by your classmates at the conservatoire. They no longer matter. Your attention is focused, not on yourself, but upon the princess. The more time you expend with her, the more you come to care for her. You become quite besotted with her, but you are yet to realize it. Well, I never. How very ignorant can one girl be of her own feelings? The princess is not half so ignorant as you are, though, despite having spent her whole life within these palaces' walls. The weight of her own feelings are not unknown to her, and during one stormy night she chooses to make them known to you. You are in the princess's chambers. Later, perhaps, than you ought to be. Later than is strictly appropriate. It's dark outside, and there's little save the light of the moon to alleviate it. That, and the fire which crackles in the grate. You've only just finished stoking that very fire, and now you rise. You look to the princess, who is lying in her bed, and you bid her a good night, as you have many nights past. With a neat curtsy, you turn to leave. But the princess's plaintive voice gives you pause. Wait, dear one. Do not go just yet. Perplexed, you pause, then look back at the princess. Though she is smiling, her expression is unusually wan. Is she all right? Oh, I'm sure I'll be fine. It's just nights like this, which make me a little, out of sorts. And what, you ask, does she mean by that? Well, that is very cold and very dark. It is very windy, besides. I'm afraid there will be a storm later. It was awfully cloudy earlier when we went out for our walk. The princess is not mistaken about that. The sky, when the pair of you promenaded around the gardens earlier, was grey and steely, the wind bitingly cold. You could hear the wind rattling mournfully against the panes in the princess's bedchamber. The princess's castle is built of stone and is well fortified, but even with a fire, it is rather cold. You would not like to think of how much chiller by comparison it will be in your humble bedchamber, which is not fortunate enough to have its own fireplace. It might sound childish. I've always found it hard to sleep on stormy nights like this. They make me feel uncomfortable. Look at the princess with no small degree of sympathy. No longer clad in her bright red dress, she looks oddly, uncommonly vulnerable. Will she really be alright? All alone in her oversized bed in her high-ceilinged bedchamber? You know it is silly of you to contemplate such a query. Why would she not be alright? There's nobody in this castle to hurt her. But still, you fret for her. As her lady's maid, it is your job to fret for her. You would never want your mistress to feel unhappy. You ask the princess what it is she would have you do, and the princess perks up at this, pleased, perhaps, that you are taking the initiative. I wouldn't like to take up too much of your time when it is so very late. Would you mind sitting with me a little while longer and reading to me? Provided that you can, of course. This is a fair enough question, but your pride bristles regardless. Hastily, you reassure the princess that yes, of course you could read. You were a poor student in many aspects of the conservatoire, but you had something of a gift when it came to the literary arts. Reading books is all you have ever been any good at. Ow. Oh, I see. I suppose I should have known. You're so incredible. I suppose that I sometimes wonder if there's anything you can't do. The princess's high praise makes you flush. Awkwardly, you look away. Being able to read, you assure her, is not so great a feat. Perhaps it isn't where you hail from, but it is here. Very few of my old servants could read, and they certainly couldn't read the books that I like. This piques your interest. Intrigued? You ask the princess what books exactly she likes. Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm fond of fairy tales, you see. Old ones from centuries past. Oh, uh-oh. Fairy tale build. I have a collection of them here, the princess says, indicating a book on her bedside table. As thick as as a mortuary slab. Oh. The book is old, though, and the bindings are weak. The pages brittle. The writing woefully old-fashioned. I didn't trust any of my past servants with that book. I think you would do a good job breathing life into these old stories. Oh, god dang it, mouse. Would you mind reading to me for just a brief while? Please, dear one. Oh. Oh, please. The princess's request seems a simple one, expressed sweetly. So much so, you see no reason to refuse her. Take a seat beside the princess, upon her luxurious bed, which sinks beneath your weight. Then you retrieve the leather-bound book which is resting upon her bedside table and spread it open. The pages of the book are very brittle, like the princess said, and the bindings of the book are loose. You can feel in the heft of the book's manifold pages the weight of the ages concealed within it. How old is this book? Perhaps it is as old as the castle in which it resides. It's with a quiet voice, hesitant at first, that she began to read. To the princess, a tale of courtly love which culminates in a lavish wedding ceremony. All the while, as you read, the princess listens to you, enraptured, hanging, or so it seems, upon your every word. Once you reach the final phrase embossed upon the pages of the aged tome, and they live happily ever after. Princess sighs as though this tale has touched her very soul. Would that there would be a handsome prince to marry me, she says somberly. Or, better yet, a beautiful princess. At this point, I think I would even settle for a lowly scullery maid. Well, ma'am, so funny you should think that, You blush at this idle remark and mumble softly that this would not be proper. The storm outside is still squalling, and you've never been one to raise your voice. You do not expect, therefore, that the princess will overhear you, but she does. She observes you, her head resting against her pillows, and says, What would be the problem with that, As my maid, shouldn't my happiness come before any silly ideas of propriety? Well, this is an interesting position. Well, of course, you reply, but for a princess to marry a scullery maid. You're still hung about that? It just titters. Don't pay it too much heed, I'm just talking to myself. As if anything like that would ever happen when there is no priest around who would officiate it. Oh, that's the hang-up. I think there are greater issues with the princess's plan than the lack of a priest. Oh, she does present a good point. The castle is an empty one. Even if the princess were to find somebody that she loves, there would be nobody to make such a wedding official. Yes. Our elegant by princess and our girlfail lesbian disaster lady's maid. You cannot help but feel like you have avoided a good deal of nuisance. But by the same token, do you not feel a touch disappointed? Well, never mind. That was a nice story, the princess says, but I'm not sleepy yet, and it's still storming outside. Won't you read me one more? You would not mind, you reply, but it is getting late. You really ought to return to your own chamber. I know, but can't you find it in your heart to read one more story to me? Just one. You can choose a short one, I won't complain. You have some doubts about that, but, as before, you cannot resist the princess's demands. It is not, you think, because she is a princess. Though that is, of course, a part of it, but because she is, radiant. You would not, you think, as you turn to the next story counted in this aged compendium, want to upset her. You'd rather cut out your own tongue. You read another story to the princess, which is of a similar vein to the last. Possible adventures culminating at their close in a happy marriage. This tale delights the princess just as much as the tale you read prior, and she begs for another, then another. One-bedroom story soon becomes 5, and even then, when the candles which flicker on the princess's bedside are close to gutting out, the princess is not satisfied. Like a grasping, greedy child, she's never heard of moderation. When she wants something, she seeks to glut herself with it, her only request that of more. If she were less comely, perhaps her inability to adhere to the word no would be seen as a character defect. The princess is very comely, however, and so, when she makes her next request, you must agree offhand, without considering the ramifications. I think I could go to sleep now, but the storm is still raging. I feel lonely on my own in this big empty bed, so... I know. The princess's eyes light up like the night sky in a thunderstorm. Why don't you sleep with me? You stare at the princess, your eyes white as goose eggs. Uh-oh. Slowly, you blink. Then, just as slowly, you bid her to repeat yourself. Didn't you hear me? The princess giggles. Maybe you've been so busy cleaning up after me you've neglected to clean out your own ears. I said, dear one, would you like to sleep with me? If that is the question she truly means to ask, then it is easy enough to answer. As she's fighting the steam pouring out of her ears right now because her cheeks are bright red. Of course you would like to sleep with her. It would be an honor. But would it really be alright for you to accept such an invitation? It must be a gross breach of protocol, surely, for a lowly domestic such as yourself to share bed with a princess. You sit upon the princess's bedside, fretting, while she observes with wide, beseeching eyes. She is waiting. Well, what's the matter, dear one? Why do you tarry so? Could it be? The princess's lower lip begins to tremble. Don't you want to lie with me after all? The sorrow present in the princess's voice and her face makes you feel awfully guilty. Oh. Hurriedly, you console her. You tell her in no uncertain terms that if she truly wishes to partake in your company, then you have no qualms with it. Why would you? Well then, don't you stand there dilly-dallying, silly. Come and join me. Come. And that is what you do. After returning briefly to your own chamber to change into your nightgown, once dressed, you waste no time in returning to your impetuous princess's side. She's already lying in her glorious four-poster bed, awaiting your return as though you are a knight-errant gone away to slay some wicked dragon. The princess giggles when she sees you. In your haste to change, you have made a hash of the buttons, and she bids you to come closer. Let me fix that for you, silly. Oh no, you say, I couldn't possibly let you do that. I am but a servant after all. Should it not be your job to dress her? Maybe so, the princess says, but I don't mind a bit of role reversal. It makes things more fun. You try a few more refutations, but in vain. The princess summarily discards all of them. Quite at the princess's mercy. She might be even more stubborn than you are. You capitulate to her demands. Let the princess unbutton the front of your nightdress, then rebutton them, so the fabric of your plain gown is drawn shut. Satisfied with her handiwork, she has very elegant hands. The princess draws back and pats the mattress next to her. Now, come in. Must be horribly cold out there, but these sheets are warm. And so am I. Coyly, the princess smiles. And so am I. You feel warm yourself as you slide into bed beside the princess. Your face is as red as the gown the princess so often wears, as red as the roses in the castle's grounds. All the while your heart is fluttering. Does the princess know what an effect she is having on you? Surely she must. How could any woman be so blind? There, the princess explains, once your body is lying beside hers. That's much better. Do you feel cozy now, dear one? You swallow. With a shaky voice, you reassure her. Yes, you are cozy. You are quite cozy indeed. Very good. The storm might be raging outdoors, but it can't get us here. I I know when I'm with you, I'll be safe. It's strange, but I feel like she's stubborn in certain areas, like accepting praise. It's stubborn in terms of having a wall up between her and the normal outside world. But as soon as something remotely comforting to her happens, she just crumples and gives in, which, understandable. And as the princess reaches out, then takes your hand in hers, twining your fingers together like a chain. When I'm with you, I feel so very light. It's as though nothing in the world can hurt me. You make me feel safe, so I want to make you feel safe too. Yeah, she's coming on really strong here. Very strong. I'll take very, very good care of you, I promise. Return her smile with one of your own. Touched by her thoughtfulness, though something about her promise does make you wonder. Could it not be your job to look after her as a domestic? In a way. The princess replies after a pause, but you've been taking good care of me already. Now I need to return the favor. As a princess, I'm supposed to look after my vassals. It's all part of the job description. You weren't aware that being a princess came with a job description. You thought that profession came with far fewer written responsibilities and far fewer forms to sign than, say, becoming a doctor, or an astrophysicist, or a mathematics professor. Tell the princess this, sleepily, and she laughs. You do say some funny things, dear one, and I think you must be tired. Rest your head. You've been working so hard. I think you deserve it. Yes, you think. Only half conscious. You think you deserve it too. Yes, you deserve good things. You've been working hard for a long time. You've been running for even longer. But now at long last you feel like you can let your fears go. Your eyelids begin to droop, your body beleaguered by a sudden, all-consuming fatigue. Quiet, understated sort of way your consciousness is conveyed to Morpheus's kingdom. Sleep is a deep one, despite the storm which rages outdoors. Wind is howling like a couple of wild cats, both locked in a vicious and bloodthirsty bout to the death. But you do not hear it. Swallowed by the warm blankets around you and soothed by the princess's presence, you are immune from all the ills of the world. When you are with the princess, you feel safe, secure, and, yes, you even feel loved. It's a pity, then, that these feelings do not last for very long. It's another consistency between these routes that as soon as we feel truly safe and cared for, it all goes to hell in a handbasket. You know that something is wrong, catastrophically so, the moment you open your eyes. Thoughts are hopelessly jumbled, but you are certain that, when you fell asleep, it was in a bed. A nice warm bed, no less, beneath soft, comfortable sheets. You are not lying in a bed right now, though. You are not, in fact, lying at all. Everything is fine? You are standing, instead, against a cold, hard wall made of stone. The curve of your back is pressed against the wall so intimately you can feel its icy chill seeping through your fabric, the fabric of your nightgown. Your feet, which are bare, are similarly pressed against the cold, unfeeling stone. They feel so frigid you cannot help but tremble. You are trembling so much that you can feel your teeth chattering together. They sound like castanets. The sound is almost jaunty as it echoes through your cell. That is indeed where you are. The princess's bedchamber, wherein you fell asleep, is a thing now of the past. You're standing, instead, you realize, a sharp start, the cell of some great underground dungeon. You swallow. When you do, you can taste something bitter on your tongue. Your stomach is beginning to churn with anxiety. That was seriously romantic there for a second or two, and unfortunately, we hit the point where we finally found a moment of complete safety, and it is being ripped away from us. You feel like you're going to be sick. A feeling which wells up inside you to a staggering degree. You catch notice of the stench. Is that what happened to the other maids? It is feeling highly likely. That might be the other maids, strapped up to this here wall. Like there's one with an apron on. The far left of this CG. You are not, you realize, the only one in this dungeon. There are others here. Others attired in the simple black and white outfits of servants which look much like the dress that you once wore. The others who are with you, however, in this expansive cell, manacled to the walls, are in no fit state to speak to you, or to tell you of their plights. They are all unfeeling, unseeing, unbreathing. They are all dead. Oh boy! You cannot approach these servants to check their pulses, for you yourself are restrained, but even if you could, there would be no point. There is no way any human could survive the wounds which have been inflicted upon these sad, slumped bodies. Over there you see a woman slumped, the front of her once white apron stained with blackish blood. There's a gaping wound in her stomach, one through which her entrails have half escaped, in some sort of burgundy goop which might have once been pale pink. Ah, it's concerning. There's another woman slumped beside the first of a smaller stature. She is skinnier. Maybe she is not a woman after all, but an adolescent like yourself. She might even be younger. A girl's age, or lack thereof, did not preclude her attacker from inflicting upon her horrors. Alas, for her body is even more mutilated than the first. Her body is peppered with even more wheals, and her face has been half smashed in. Oh god. Only one eye remains, staring fixedly at the wall opposite her, in the ruined remains of what was once her skull. Over there you see a woman who is missing both her arms and her lower jaw. Over there you see another who is missing her entire lower half. Oh god. Where have her legs gone? They've gone walkabout. You have no idea. The injuries inflicted upon these bodies are ghastly, but their advanced decay is enough to turn your stomach. You know not how long these carcasses have been lying down here, but they have begun to putrefy. You fear a similar fate might befall you should you stay here. You need to escape. Fitfully you struggle against the manacles which bind you, but alas, it is no use. You cannot free yourself from the walls. Your restraints are much too strong, and you are much too weak. Panic rises up in your throat, cold and icy, while terror seizes your heart. This too, glacial. It is obvious that escape is impossible, but still you squirm and writhe, like a cat caught in a firestorm. There's little point, however, to your struggles. You succeed in nothing as you attempt to free yourself, save making the steel manacles dig into your abused wrists more sharply than ever. You gasp. That hurts. Well, you ought to have known that wouldn't work. The very definition of insanity is, you know, performing a set of action over and over again, hoping for a different response. In that sense, perhaps one could argue optimism is not so very different from insanity. That is an interesting point to consider. Would you not agree? No, evidently not. You are still trying to escape, you foolish girl, as if that will do you any good. The clangorous rattling of your steely restraints is rather starting to get on my nerves. You're making enough noise to raise the dead down here, in your dark, dingy cell, and all your screaming is hardly helping matters. I wish that you would cease this infernal racket, but I know you will not. Yeah, we're very clearly... Narrator is very clearly someone observing this scene. Nothing I say could ever get through to you. And narrator is very clearly someone with a history with MC. Not that you have ever listened to me in the first place. Perhaps you would listen to her, though. Is she not your kind, considerate mistress? Look, now. She's come all this way into the dark depths of the castle's cold, inhospitable dungeon to see you. Is it not kind of her? Oh, dear one, Princess trills, entering the dungeon with a series of light, lifting steps. It would seem like you have finally woken. How are you? Bad! Based on all the infernal racket you've been making, it would seem like you've had no sort of shortage of energy. Carefully you turn your head, so as to meet the eyes of the princess. She is standing but a few paces away, beneath a roughly hewn stone arch which bids one an entry, but rarely ever an exit, to the dungeons. Dungeons are dull and drab, but the princess is wearing her favorite red dress. It is so bright and brilliant that, for a few moments, it hurts you to look at her. Once, the red of the princess's outfit made you think of romance. Now it makes you think of violence. You must forgive me for leaving you down here for so long. That was unfair of me. I did think of waiting here with you, by your side, until you awoke, but... Once again, the princess giggles, a light, airy giggle which does not at all suit the situation in which you have found yourself. A dungeon is not a fit place, after all, for a princess. It is horribly cold here and so very drab, and there's nowhere nice and soft to lay my head. I could have brought my pillows down to my bed, I suppose, and my blankets, but then they would have gotten dirty, and that would have been a disaster. I need to be more careful. I won't have anybody left to clean up after my messes soon. Not when I've dispatched of you. Once again the princess laughs. Her laughter is light and lifting, lilting, like the chiming of a silvery bell, but does little to alleviate your concern. If anything, it makes you feel even more alarmed. Did you say she meant to dispatch of you? Yes, that's right. Could you not tell? Thought you might have figured that out already after waking up in a dungeon, silly. Still smiling, the princess takes another step toward you. Would that you would cringe away from her, but you cannot. You are completely powerless. Oh, boy. The princess reaches out and places a hand upon your cheek. Your skin is very white, and though her touch is cool, it is less so than the frigid air of the dungeon. Though your body is aching, the princess's touch is gentle, and you find yourself leaning into it subconsciously. You wish she would keep holding you. You wish she would keep touching you. Touch-starved, you luxuriate in your kindness as best as you can. So touch-starved, she's locked up in a dungeon with a bunch of dead people, and she's losing herself in the princess who locked her here, touching her cheek. But though the princess's caresses are tender, your circumstances rather undermine them a little bit. Yeah. How can you relax like this? Ah, you're such a good girl, the princess says, in a cajoling sort of voice, as one might address a cat. You've been so lovely to me while we've been together. I really couldn't ask for a better servant. I feel as though I've been spoiled. Why then, you ask her, is she doing this? Improbable though it sounds, she must be the one who chained you up. There's nobody else in the castle who could have committed such a feat. Everybody else is dead. Why, yes. How very astute of you. I was the one who orchestrated all of this naturally. Naturally, she says, as though her betrayal is a matter of course. Naturally. Why, you ask, is this so natural to her? What does she mean to do with you? Oh, only what I've done to all my other servants. Yep, they're okay, there it is. I have experience with this sort of thing, so please don't worry. I'll take good care of you. And by take good care of, she means... naturally, I'll kill you. Oh, awesome! There it is again, that word, which seems grossly inappropriate given all which has transpired. Naturally. There's nothing natural about this. Do you not think so? The princess examines you, her expression ponderous. It's natural to me, even if it isn't natural to other people. This just feels right. Imprisoning her servants in the dungeon and letting them die. Yes, exactly. There's a bit more to do. There's a bit more to do it than that, though. Of course there is. I like you, dear one. The princess says in a voice which sounds uncommonly serious. You have been good to me. Like I said, and kind. For that, I will be eternally appreciative. You've been so good to me. In fact, that simply being with you is not enough. Not anymore. Your company can no longer content me. I'm a greedy, selfish girl, you see. Princess's smile widens into something sinister, her eyes flashing with a fiendish fervor you could have never before witnessed. See, Gravekeeper can make an argument that her reaction is a form of trauma and protecting herself. What is about to happen here, if I'm correct, and I don't want you to feel you beside me. I want to feel you inside me. Yeah, this is just, well, of all the things your charming captive could have said, you did not expect that. Princess, perhaps noticing your confusion, begins to giggle. A giggle even lighter than meringue, and just as airy. So yeah, in the content warning to the Steam page, it mentions cannibalism. We have arrived at the cannibalism portion of today's viewing. It is just as inoffensive. I can see that you don't mind. You don't understand, dear one, but you aren't the only one. My last lady's maid said that too. Wanly, the princess sighs. A beleaguered woe-is-me sigh, which makes her look even younger than the scant handful of years she truly possesses. And the one before that, and the one before that, and the one before that. I thought that you, at least, might be able to appreciate my point of view, but perhaps not. I don't think it should be too complicated to grasp, really. Maybe my way of looking at the world is a bit unique. You could say that. That's what my nurse always used to say, at least, when she still had the breath to speak, of course. Look at the princess. Where else is there for you to look, really? Her eyes are fixed to her face. She's still smiling, but there's something sinister about that smile. Or perhaps in your anxious state, you are only imagining that there is something sinister about that smile. It is easy to see things which do not really exist when your surroundings are festooned in shadows. In actuality, however, the princess does not look any different to how she usually does. Neither is she acting any differently to the way she usually acts. She has not changed. It is only your perspective of her that has changed. Tremulously, you ask the princess what she means, a question the princess is only too happy to answer. It's simple, really. Like I said, you were wondering, weren't you, why there weren't any guards or any servants in the castle when you first arrived here? The question had crossed your mind, yes. You are sure that the princess said her minister sent them away, though. Was that a lie? I wasn't being wholly truthful, no. I thought that you'd be afraid of me if you knew what had actually happened, and I didn't want that. I wanted you to stay with me. My ministers didn't send anybody away because I don't have any ministers. I dispatched of them, too. Did she now? You suppose you ought not to be surprised, but you still shudder regardless. My ministers weren't very much fun, I'm afraid. They had a lot of ideas about what I should and shouldn't do after my parents died. Princess stares at you, her eyes wide like black holes, empty, yawning, abysses. So I killed them. I killed my servants too, though I did a more thorough job with them than I did my ministers. I did not care for my ministers, you see, they were all frusty old men, but I did love my servants. I loved my lady's maids, and my undermaids, and my scullery maids, and my housekeeper, and my cooks, and my large retinue of retainers. They were like my family. They raised me in my parents' absence, and I adored them. They were so very dear to me that I had no real choice. I had to eat them. Does that follow? Not logically, no. Why, you asked the princess, your voice trembling, would you eat the people you love? It seems a poor way to repay them for their kindness. Well, why wouldn't you eat the people that you love? I don't think there could be any greater way of showcasing one's gratitude, unless you have any better ideas. She makes a convincing argument. Why wouldn't you eat the people that you love? Go out there and eat someone you love today. Just do it. I mean, honestly. Way ahead of you? Alright, on it. Excellent. You weren't expecting the princess to turn the tables on you quite like this, and, dumbfounded, you stare at her. You know precious little about your love yourself, so it is hard for you to form a convincing rebuttal, but you muster up a few token arguments. You tell the princess that eating people, isn't very nice. Neither is it strictly legal. Fair! Let's see what you think about that, princess. A better way to show your gratitude to your servants would be with increased wages or increased holidays. Yes, better servants' rights. Princess listens to your arguments, her expressions astute, like a student poised to take notes in a very important lecture. Once you are finished, however, her concentration fails her. Her shoulders begin to shake, but it is not with remorse for what she has done. Instead, she is laughing. Oh, dear one. That's very funny, but why should I care about the law? I'm a princess. One day I'll be the queen. I am the law. That is a good point, but what would eating people not turn her subjects against her? What subjects? I'm no fool, you know, no matter how I might act. I know what happens beyond the castle's walls. I know all about the plague. Ah, so all three routes are taking place in the same setting, around the same time, the same timeline. So to reiterate, in case you're not familiar with the other two routes, the Gravekeeper's village got wiped out by the plague, and the Gravekeeper has dug graves for generations in her family. She watched her father die from the plague, buried him, watched her village die out from the plague, buried them all, and buries us when she starts to grow close to us. The mermaid used to talk to someone from the village regularly, but her friend from the village disappeared, stopped coming to see her. So when we stumble in and talk to the mermaid, start bonding with the mermaid, we become that sort of replacement. And the mermaid takes us home with her. Mermaid pulls a Rena, Higurashi Rena, takes us home with her, and we drown. Not anymore, no. She is now the princess of nothing. The plague has wiped out all of her subjects. Once I might have had a populace to govern, but they've all gone now. A princess in nothing but name only. A monarch without any subjects. Don't you think that's sad? I know I do. It's woefully lonely. If she feels lonely, then why has she been systematically slaughtering all of her domestics? Doesn't make a lick of sense. Perhaps not, to you. Gently the princess caresses your cheek. But I shouldn't judge you too harshly. As much as I like you. Hold a Rena. Rena from Higurashi. Hey, you're so cute, I'm going to take you home with me. And then the mermaid proceeds to take us home with her, deep down into the ocean. And because we are not mermaid, we drown. I shouldn't judge you too harshly. As much as I like you, dear one, you are a commoner. Perhaps you can't understand the intricacies of my thoughts. I suppose you could say that her motives are complex. Privately, you doubt that anybody would be able to understand the intricacies of the princess's thought process, largely because it is unreasonable. You do not say that, though. Instead, you ask her the only question you can think to ask, with your weary throat, which is sore from shouting. Why? Why, you ask? The princess blinks. It's because I don't want you to leave me, of course. Everybody leaves sooner or later. Whether they have pledged their allegiance to me or not. That is simply the way of the world. People are fickle and inconsistent. Even to be a monarch. That is why I decided to eat my servants. I had no choice, you see. It was the only way to ensure they would never leave me. When you think about it, they should be grateful that I would demean myself so, to consume their flesh and blood. I am a magnanimous ruler, you see, and I treat all my subjects equally. I love every single one of you. And naturally, I love you too. You have been awfully nice to me, and you are very pretty alongside it. If you were a plain ugly girl, perhaps I would not shower you with affection quite as intense as this, once you've captured my heart. I think you're lovely, so I'll bestow upon you the highest honor I can conceive of. I want your body to mix with mine, then we can stay together forever and ever. Princess leans in. You can feel her soft, silken hair brushing against your cheeks. You can feel, too, the warmth of her breath as it ghosts against your skin. It's cold in the dungeon. The princess's close proximity is perverse, though this might sound something of a comfort. Her eyes are wide and her lips are so red. Her smile, meanwhile, is so sweet. I've been doing my best to fulfill the role that fate has dictated for me, but really, the princess exhales. Her eyes, which are boring into yours, are like two dark tarns. Finally, you can see the alarming lack of light, the lack of anything in the princess's gaze, some degree of humanity. It gets so lonely here. This brief flicker of understanding which passes between the pair of you is soon cut short. The princess dips her head, parts her lips, which are red, the petals of a coniferous flower. You feel the princess's breath against your neck. It is warm in the icy chill of the dungeons, and you shudder from it. For a few moments, you think that this overture of the princess's could be romantic in a way, but this too comes to a swift, merciless close. Chomp! The princess's mouth is on your neck. The princess's teeth, sharp as needles, are in your flesh. The princess is draining your blood. She is supping on it in great, greedy goblets like a hungry animal, one who cannot truly comprehend the harm it is causing. Even as the princess sups from you, her arms twined around your waist, you find you cannot hate her. She is far too unworldly. You are sure, as your consciousness begins to fade, that the princess was being sincere when she spoke of her love for her past servants. This is simply the way the princess expresses this great love of hers. A love which is so very abundant, and borders upon the monstrous. That is a conflicting pair of emojis, twin. But agreed. It is a love you never thought that you would experience. This love of the princesses eclipses anything you have ever known before. It eclipses sanity. It eclipses reason. It eclipses all notions you might once have had of right or wrong. The princess, as you know full well, does not care about such concepts. You've always possessed a stubborn core, nestled between your weak-willed exterior, but the princess is even stubborner than you are. In the face of her love, you have met your match. Princess draws back. Desperately, you gasp for air, but she does not give you any quarter. As before, she dips her head, her red lips redder still with your blood, then splits apart her jaw. Her teeth, which are impossibly, inhumanly sharp, glint wickedly like knives, and she tears out your throat. Oh! But your nightgown was white once. Now it is red. There is so much blood you can smell it when you inhale, sharper than metal. It is so potent you can taste it on your tongue. You try to inhale, but this task proves to be beyond you. What with the twin perforations that have ruptured your skin. Your attempted breaths, when they escape your lips, sound like sad, sorry wheezes. Your whole body, meanwhile, feels as though it is on fire. You make for quite the sorry sight indeed. But you'll forgive me if my sympathy is limited. You did bring this upon yourself, you know. And there's that again. there's that line again as the ender to a route. You reap what you sow. In your case, you made a series of bad decisions which led to your untimely demise. Now what do you want to do? Will you accept this fate of yours and rest in peace, or will you try to fight against it? And as per the usual, we will accept our fate. What? Really? You're fine with being eaten alive in a dark, dingy dungeon, then being left to rot? Does not sound like a very satisfying ending to this particular narrative. But if that is what you want, then so be it. I do not mind indulging you. That is what I have always done, after all, for the moment we first met. I have dedicated myself tirelessly to answering your wishes, and this is no different. Do not be so foolish to think, though, that you can escape me, even if your life's blood has mingled with that of the princesses. I am not going to relinquish my hold upon you that easily. I did pledge, after all, to remain by your side, come what will, fire or flood. I will never leave you. Yep, narrator is definitely the secret fourth yandere. You will never be lonely again. Hot diggity. Eating somebody alive and raw. Andy and Lele would be scandalized. Oh god. Oh god. But also you're right. That is a good answer. I must admit, I like it. It's impressive how very defiant you can be, even in a situation as discomforting as this. Now, try not to cry. Keep your chin up. This is but a minor setback in your story. For the fair maidens, you are deserving of your own happy ending. You need only the strength to try and seek it out. Why don't we give this another go? Just try not to ensnare the hearts of any more monarchs, particularly those with unusual appetites. We're destined for far higher purposes than being an entree, and there are vastly more enjoyable ways to be eaten in this world. Oh, your fate is once again in your hands. Now I wonder, which path will you take? Oh! Well. We have gone through all three paths, and they've all ended badly. Our only choice now... So, you've come back here, have you? That does not come as much of a surprise. Though presented with the three potential paths, it's not as though traversing any of them would have any particular impact upon your ultimate fate. In the end, you were always destined to return here. Did you really think you had a choice? How hopelessly naive of you. Thought that you were smarter than that. Your breath, which once escaped your lips in sharp, ragged gasps, is now on the verge of petering out altogether. Your lungs feel deflated, as though they have been punctured. Your blood is rushing through your temples in a heady, overwhelming surge. Your stomach, meanwhile, has twisted itself up in knots. Amab! Your body feels very heavy, your legs in particular. They no longer wish to obey you. Although, really feels like they were going with the idea that, she is unusual. She is obviously she was not very well adjusted. She sees the world drastically differently to the average person, but feels like the way that ending was going, that in a sense we believed her words that she honestly loved us, and that this was an honest way that she was intending to express that love to us. It is not great, it hurt quite a bit, but in a weird way, she meant it. Your body feels heavy, your legs in particular. They no longer wish to obey you. Anyways, time to confront the yandere narrator. Take a stumbling step forward and your foot gets caught in a tree root. You're certain that you passed this route once already, and that you sidestepped it. But perhaps your memory is beginning to fail you, just like the rest of your body. Oh, is it almost time for me to make my grand entrance? You gasp, surprised, and pitch forwards, dull and senseless like a sack full of potatoes. Your arm hits the ground with a crack, one which makes you cry out in pain. Tears begin to bead on your eyes, wet and salty, tears which you cannot stymie. You are not as resilient as the gravedigger, nor as carefree as the princess. If you lived underwater like the mermaid, then nobody, at the very least, would be able to tell that you are crying, but you do not, and I can. Believe me, I can. Your arm aches dreadfully, but at least you can still feel it. Your poor feet, meanwhile, have gone quite numb. You would try to stand had you the energy, but you know, as you sit there, dazed, that this would be a futile effort. You cannot stand. Not any longer. It hurts too much. You really have been through a lot tonight, haven't you? I fear I have not been very kind to you. Don't you ought to be accustomed to hardship? Why then are you crying? You always have been a crybaby. That is why they teased you so much. It's because they knew they would be guaranteed a reaction. You are very predictable. Even now, after you try to borrow my power for your own purposes, you have not changed at all. As you sit there, sobbing, you hear, or you think you hear, footsteps approaching you. Have we invoked the power of a witch to try and save us from our bullies? There, to your right, is the snapping of a twig. To your left, the telltale rustle of leaves. Have we invoked the power of a witch to save us from our bullies, but it backfired because we didn't have the backbone to use it properly, and now we are here. Every sense feels razor sharp, honed to a knife's point by anxiety. You are so panicked you feel as though you are going to be sick. If you want to vomit, then why not? There is no shame in it. There is nobody here to judge you. Nobody but me. I have always been here, you know. I will always be here, no matter how fast you try to run or how far. Did you really think you could escape me? Poor sweet child. Poor little fool. I did tell you, did I not? A contract with a witch is binding. No amount of physical distance between the both of us could ever sever it. I told you I would never let you be lonely, and I meant it. A contract with a witch is binding. I told you I would never let you be lonely, and I meant it. But I have had rather enough of these little games. It's time for me to collect my collateral. Hello there! A soft gasp escapes your throat as you feel arms wind their way around your back. Here we are. Naturally, you know whose arms they are. They are mine. I have been watching you all night, but this is the first time I have reached out to you in so direct a manner. Did you not expect me to be so forward? I can hear your heart fluttering in your chest. It's beating very quickly, like a startled rabbit's. Your breaths are short and sharp. It is a cold night, and though I am holding you, you are still shaking. I wish you would not tremble so. Everybody fears the unknown, but we are not strangers. We have spoken before, have we not? When you first called me forth from the ether, using that book you found in the library. You were desperate enough then to turn to the occult for help. You pleaded with me to use my magic for your behalf. You begged me. You implored and you entreated and you wheedled and you whined, and though I had some reservations, you forced my hand. I had no choice, not in the face of your desperation. You did not want to be lonely anymore. You wanted to have a friend, somebody who would always be there for you, no matter what. You wanted somebody to love you. Is that not what you demanded of me? Is that not what I have given you? You might think me wicked, but I think you are being awfully cruel yourself, to run from me after I made all of your wishes come true. I did think, you know, about punishing you for running away from me. Thought of poking out your eyes, so that you might never see anybody other than me. Thought of cutting off your long, lovely hair so that nobody might ever think you beautiful but me. Thought of breaking your legs so that you might never be able to escape from me. Okay. So lonely we awoken a Yandere witch. I turned all these intriguing ideas over in my mind, but I am a merciful witch. Though you hurt me, I did not wish to hurt you. You asked, after all, that I love you, and that is what I did. I have drowned you in my love. I have buried you beneath my love. I have swallowed you with my love. You have always been a sad, lonely girl, one who has been starved out of affection. Nobody's ever cared for you. Your life has been a barren, empty wasteland, one devoid of any tender feelings. That is why I had to drown you, you see. That is why I had to bury you. That is why I had to swallow you. Drown, bury, swallowed. In the end, I was doing you a favor. I was doing it all for you. In that sense, you are very lucky. Do you know that? There are few people in this world who have had the privilege of being loved at the brink of insanity quite this many times in one night. There are few people who in this world who can claim to have been loved by a witch. You've experienced so much love, it ought to have been slaked even your unquenchable thirst. You know now what it feels to be adored. And you've more than upheld my end of the bargain. Now I think it is time that you do the same. What was your end of the bargain? On this night forth, you and I will always be together. Then I shall be able to love you endlessly. You will never be lonely again. Oh. Oh. Oh dear. Hmm. Before we get into that, there's still one more CG to unlock. I know there's something that happens if we do a new run here. Yep, you're running through a forest. This shouldn't come as a surprise to you. You've been here before, haven't you? It's beginning to feel like you've been running for a long, long time. The sun, despite all the overwhelming weariness which assaults your legs, has yet to rise. Why, I wonder, could that be? You are sure as you run that you have seen all this already. You have seen the fractal pattern of the moon's milky growth as it spills on the uneven forest floor, and the trees which jut out over the earth like an eerie monument to a foreign god. You have seen wicked brambles which sought to ensnare you, and, I might add, succeeded, and tree roots, hooked like the choppy fingers of witches far older than I, which sought to trip you. You have cut your feet. You have torn out your skirt. You have taken numerous paths, yet they all ended in failure. Once you had hope. Now it is gone. You have already given in to me. So why are you still running? Silly girl. Did you really think you could escape from me after all I have subjected you to already? There is no use trying to escape from my embrace. And if I may be so bold, I am hurt that you would even attempt it. Were you not happy with me? I was happy with you. But no matter. You are a stubborn little chit, and perhaps you will think that things will be different this time around. That is why you began to run. I can see, despite the fear in your eyes, that your resolve has not burnt out. Not just yet. A spark of it still remains, a spark that I mean to extinguish for good. It is pointless, you know, trying to escape from a witch's curse. In this forest of phantasmagoria, constructed from my own powers, I am a creator goddess. Mother Earth, if you will. It does not matter how quickly you run, trampling the tall grass and the loose leaves and the ugly spotted mushrooms underfoot. I still have you right where I want you, in the palm of my hand. Oh. I will not let you get away that easily. But very well. If you insist on playing this little game, then I will indulge you. I will play along. We can do this all over again. Now, where were we? Oh, yes. You were still running through a forest. It's late at night and the sky is as black as pitch. Nothing to light your way save for the moon's milky glow. But its rays cannot even reach you. Not properly. Trees which surround you, jutting out of the edge of the earth, like eerie monuments to a foreign god, are blotting out most of the light. You cannot see where you are going. If you had commenced your flight at a more sensible hour, though, with the light of the sun to aid you, it would be of little use. You do not know where you are going. You have no map, no route, no plan. You are running like a frightened animal, anxious and nervy. No destination in mind. None beyond the almost overwhelming impetus to escape. Do not let yourself be caught, though it is too late, I suppose, for that. You have no choice, therefore, but to keep going. On and on, though your feet are screaming at you for mercy. You run and you run and you run until at long last you reach a fork in the road. There are 3 paths which split off through the forest. Well, 4 if you count the path down which you came. You don't exactly double back on yourself, though. Why would you? You put all that effort, after all, into running forwards. Not just once, but twice. Doubt you would have mean to confront me. How can you when you are so very afraid? I can hear your teeth chattering, you know. I can see your legs trembling. Your fear rolls off you in waves, more potent than any perfume. Your anxiety is truly staggering. It's a wonder, really, how you are able to keep putting one foot in front of the other. You will keep putting your feet in front of the other, though, no matter which decision you make. You will not turn back. How could you? You are far too cowardly. Now, the 3 paths are signposted, as well you know, which would be a strange sight given that you are so deep in the forest. But you ought to be used to strange sights by now. It's dark, but that does not matter. You have seen this signpost before, and you know well where each path will lead you. I would say that your fate is in your hands, but you and I both know that is incorrect. Your fate is, and always has been, mine to manipulate. Must you really go through this rigmarole again? You won't discover anything new, you know. The mermaid, the gravedigger, and the princess will not deviate from the scripts which have already been prepared for them. I did not, in all honesty, think to furnish any further responses for them. I did not think you would be seeing them again. But no matter. If this is what you want, I shall provide it for you. Go ahead. Throw your life away. Again and again and again. Be drowned by love. Be buried by love. Are they real people who were simply influenced by the witch? And that's what pushed them over the edge into their disaster deaths. Be consumed by love. Then when you have had enough and you can no longer stand, submit yourself once again to my embrace. Let yourself experience the love as precious few humans have ever before had the misfortune of experiencing. Well. Alright, we can skip through all of this. Yep, as precisely as she said. This is all happening all over again. So, yes, I thought you might say that. Though you once summoned forth the courage to persevere, despite the odds, your strength has begun to fail you. You are tired now, and this is more than you can endure. Being eaten alive not just once, but twice is more than any ordinary human could ever hope to endure. And you, though headstrong, are nothing more than a little girl. Why, you are so very slender, you might as well be a fair flower. You can see how weary you have become. But worry not. I will still be here for you, even though you might be bleeding out in a dark, dingy dungeon. I shall never leave you. We did make a contract, after all. The world might have forsaken you, but I never will. I will never leave you. You will never be lonely again. Whoo! Oh, you wish to keep going, do you? That is impressive, given that this is the second time you have been devoured so heartily. Of all the demises you have experienced, this one is the most gruesome. If you are tired of these repetitions, I would understand. I am not the wicked witch you might think I am, and I would be willing to show you mercy should you want it. And I can tell that you do not want it. Goodness me, you are stubborn. Why, I asked, do you continue to fight? There is no escape for you, you know. I will never let you leave, no matter how you struggle. But very well. Let us go back to the beginning once again. Your fate is in your hands, or so I once told you. Not to know now, however, that this was never truly the case. You still belong to me. I am not going to let you get away from me, not that easily. Struggle as much as you want, but it will be in vain. It does not matter where you go. I will always find you. I can promise you that much. There she is, our girl, the gravekeeper. She's so precious. I care her. She's so good, and now we are being buried. It's just unfortunate. Yes, I thought you might say that. You might have defied me once before, but I can see that fire has long since begun to leave your eyes. You have been subjected to too many horrors for one so young. Even if you were of a more advanced age, I fear your faculties would have begun to fail you regardless. Humans are not meant to die as many times as you have. You're supposed to pass on only the once. You've experienced something few others have. In that sense, you are quite fortunate. I suppose it does not feel like it. I can see how very tired you are. But worry not. I will still be here for you. Even though you have been shut away far too soon inside your own tomb, I shall never leave you. We did make a contract, after all. The world might have forsaken you, but I never will. I will never leave you. Never be lonely again. That's 2 deaths. We will persist. Go under the sea with the mermaid. And then we get back to the witch. My, this is certainly unexpected. I'd rather thought after everything you have been subjected to, you would no longer wish to continue this farce. I was fully prepared for you to forfeit yourself at long last my loving embrace. I am ready to embrace you, should you so desire it, and cradle you within my unassailable affection. But it seems you are not ready to submit quite yet. Being buried alive twice over has not been enough to diminish your determination. You still wish to fight against me, as if you had any hope of succeeding. Your efforts are all futile. Do you not know that? Far, far stronger than a skinny human like yourself could ever begin to contemplate. You would be better served if you gave in. Or perhaps I have not loved you effusively enough. Not just yet. If you're to learn anything, I must first beat it into your thick skull of yours. Will you listen to me then? I only want what is best for you, you know. Hurting you hurts me too. Oh, that line hurts. But if that is what you want, so be it. Let us go back to the beginning once again. Your fate is in your hands. At least that is what you might think. I both know, however, that this was never the case. You still belong to me, and I will never let you forget that. Now continue to struggle. Do your very best. It will not work, but it should be entertaining if nothing else. And to the shore we go. Water break. This is the fast forward the mermaid route, and we're going underwater. And we're drowning. Yes, I thought you might say that. You were able to resist the pressure of the ocean's waves once before, but that felt like a lifetime ago. Perhaps it is. You are tired now, and you want nothing more than to succumb. I cannot say that I blame you. I can see how tired you are, dear one. But worry not. I will still be here for you, even if you are to spend your days languishing at the bottom of the ocean. I shall never leave you. We did make a contract after all. The world might have forsaken you, but I never will. I will never leave you. Be lonely again. Alright. Once more with feeling. And then, on to the repeat of the give up path. See what that changes. Fight! Oh, you still wish to soldier on, do you? That is remarkable, given this is the second time you have been pulled beneath the ocean's surface. Would have thought that you would want to give up by now. But no matter. You really are stubborn. I cannot promise a better fate than this awaits you, regardless of what you might choose. But I am willing to indulge you. Let's go back to the beginning once again. Your fate is in your hands. At least that is what you once thought. And I both know, however, that this is never was the case. Not now that you belong to me. How much longer can you keep resisting, though? I cannot wait to find out. Give up, question mark? Oh, defiance? There, you see? Are you happy now? I told you that there was no use in repeating this night, yet you failed to listen. You have been drowned, buried, and consumed once more, and for what? Do you feel as though you have made any progress in your attempts to escape from me? Ooh! Once again, you find yourself as you were at the end of your last foray to my forest full of nightmares. You are kneeling upon the ground, your feet aching. Perhaps they are bleeding, and your skirt tattered and torn. It does explain the jarring dissonance of a girl in a perfectly modern, trending art school being pulled into a world that seems more medieval and fairy tale-like. It's because that is in fact the world that's the construct of a witch. You try to inhale, but it hurts. It feels as though your lungs have been punctured by a pair of embroidery scissors. When you swallow, you can taste salt upon your tongue. You blink, but it is so very dark in these woods you fear you cannot see. There's a heavy, leaden weight upon your shoulders. It feels as though somebody is shoveling soil upon you. Your body is cold, as though it has been sapped of all warmth. Your blood, which ought to flow through your veins, feels as though it has frozen. That which has been purged from your body altogether in rust-red goblets. Have you not had enough of this bow, silly thing? I am saying this for your sake, you know. Just as much as I am mine. If I might have trapped you hence, I did it only because I care for you. I want only for you to realize the folly of your ways. Now cease your foolish attempts to escape. They will accomplish nothing save stretching your mind beyond its limitations. It's already, I fear, been stretched thin already. He was not designed to die. Not as incessantly as you have. One death would be enough to finish most of your kind off, yet you have endured 6 of them. You do not want to go through that again, do you? Then do not run from me. Let me console you. Let me embrace you. Let me love you. What do you say to that? Oh? Can't cut your tongue, Well, no matter. You will not need your tongue to speak while we are together. It is an unnecessary appendage. However much you might wish, one day to whisper sweet nothings to me. I am an all-powerful witch after all, and I can hear all of your thoughts. I know what you are thinking. Yes, that is right. Silence is golden, as they say. You do not need to speak. You do not need to blink. You do not even need to breathe. And that you are finally mine, I will cut off your tongue, and I will pluck out your pretty eyes, and I will... No. I beg your pardon. What was that, dear one? Defiance. Yeah. Yeah. Go, girl. Also pointing out the fact that the princess That to even more stick home the point that this is all a construct of the witch. Each of the paths, each of the love interests call us dear one. I said no. I am not your dear one. I never wanted this. What? You would defy me still, after all you have endured. Were 6 deaths not enough for you, you gluttonous girl? Do you wish for more? I just wished for a friend. I didn't want to be lonely. But you ensnared me. You tricked me. Well, I never. What bold accusations. They are not true, though, you know. They are bold-faced lies. I did nothing of the sort. My name might begin in a similar fashion, but I am no Mephistopheles. I was very upfront when we first met. I said if you wished to make a contract with me, and it would cost you. It is your own fault that you did not listen. Except you accepted my terms, and now you are paying the price. Now, if you will come with me, my dear. I am not your dear! Really now. It has all become rather tiresome. I must insist that you cease this childish outburst at once, or else... Or else what? Will you cut off my tongue? Will you pluck out my eyes? You already stole my name, but it's coming back to me. What? No. That should be impossible. You gave your name to me. You gave your soul to me. You pledged your heart and your body to me, and now I want them back. I'm tired of these games, too. Medea? Ah, you remember my name? I do now. You're called Medea, and I... No, stop it. I'm called Rosette. It can't be. I knew you were stubborn, but... I learned how to be stubborn. I'm used to being bullied. You're just like the others. I'm not afraid of you anymore. You took everything from me. And now I'm taking it back. No, you can't. Rosette, please, don't go. Don't leave me. We made a contract, you and I. You said you wanted a friend, and I promised to be that friend. I promised that I would always be there for you. Do you really mean to abandon me? That was the general idea. And what of me? What am I supposed to do? You? You can rot for all I care. What? No, Rosette. I call after you, retreating back, but you do not heed my words. You do not turn your head. Once it was you who knelt in this dirt, your clothes tattered and torn, your dignity alongside it. You were so vulnerable then, and you were so very, very beautiful. In a perverse way, however, I think you might look even more beautiful now than you are walking away from me. Now that you are walking away from me, that's the thing you humans say, is it not? You ever realize just how much you value something until you no longer have it? It does not hold true in my case, however. I knew you were a precious find when you first summoned me. Your fiery determination, even in the face of extreme hardship, endeared you to me. I thought you very noble, really, how you had survived for so long in an environment which was so very hostile. For a human, I thought you remarkable. That is why I decided to form a contract with you. I thought with a human like you by my side, my own life of empty, endless wandering might not be so lonely. Goodness me. I must be growing sentimental in my old age. Now, you are not the one upon the ground. It is I. I could keep calling for you, but I know it would be no good. You will not turn back around for me now. Not when I have caused you so much suffering. I did not mean to hurt you so, really. I truly did love you, albeit in my own way. In the end, however, I suppose the love of a witch was just too much even for you to endure. Now there was nothing but the milky moonlight and the trees which jut out of the earth about me. They looked like monuments built in the honor of a foreign god. They looked like nothing more from the world that you knew, Rosette. Because they are not of your world. They are of mine. Now you have fled from me. Bird let loose from its cage, I fear I will never see you again. I'll be on my own, in this forest, for all of eternity. Or until another silly little girl with stars in her eyes and dreams in her heart summons me once more. has happened a handful of times in the past. It might one day happen again. Till that day, however, I will lie here among the foliage and fog, and I will close my eyes. I will let myself dream. And robed in the undulating mist, I shall think to myself, it gets so lonely in here. It gets so lonely here. Yep. There we have it. Oh. We did it. We saved her. She learned how to be stubborn. She stood up to Medea and got her name back. Time passes very quickly. Yeah. It really do. It really do. Rosette. It's real. That is a delightful Medea design. And finally... So... in terms of the story of the game overall... Rosette here, in her miserable time at the conservatoire, being relentlessly bullied and taken advantage of for being like the low ring of the rich people totem pole, and sick and feeble and strongly reacting to the provocations of her classmates, became like the punching bag for all of the bullies. Aggressively abused and dealt with constant abuse through a time there. And then it was probably the point chronologically when they decided to change tack and go with the unpersoning bullying tactic, where she started seeking out the occult. Found the book, summoned Medea, just wanted a friend, but Medea's terms and conditions, she agreed to give her that friendship. But that friendship contract to Medea is ostensibly a case of, I will be your friend, but you give me your everything and we will be friends forever. And ultimately, Rosette thought that it was... I suppose she genuinely didn't realize that Medea had worse intentions until Medea swooped in and tried to collect her and take her away here, perhaps, to be her permanent companion. And so, from there, Rosette, having been taken here to Medea's domain and losing her name, losing Medea's name, flees, and then there we are at the start of the game, in Medea's domain, so Medea, obviously, is the POV for all of this. To the point where Rosette is running from Medea and Medea's domain, but Medea knows every step of the way what is going on with her. Oh dear. Okay. And finally closing out notes from Ebi again. Time for the second lot of author's notes. Yay! Oh no! Oh no, we missed the first lot of author's notes because we started a new game. I didn't actually stop to read it because I didn't think it would change. Okay. Entirely possible you missed the first lot of author's notes because if you didn't think to check them before starting a new game. In that case, do your first lot of author's notes instead. In any case, initially as I was planning out, it gets a little lonely here. I didn't intend for there to be more to the story after the first playthrough. I'm going to end the story after which Medea ensnares a despairing Rosette in her grasp. When I was coding the VN, I thought it would be cool to do a new game plus situation. Starting the game for a second time gives you a slightly different outcome. Done this in Empty Horizons. Oh. Oh. Might have to look that one up, because the concept is cool. So, the second playthrough. I thought it would feel narratively satisfying to give the reader, though Rosette isn't really aligned with the reader, she has a personality of her own, an opportunity to get the better of the second-person narrator. And watching them die over and over again. Initially I thought of making the confrontation between Rosette and Medea more humorous in tone, with Rosette snapping after being subjected to so much drama. I think having full-on comedy music playing for the scene, with Rosette... Well, Rosette shouts at Medea, "Stop calling me my dear one, I do have a name, you know." I eventually decided I could make the confrontation more striking if I make it more dramatic instead. Yeah, that would have been unusual if that took the comedic route. The core of my original idea still remains, however, even though the confrontation is more serious. Rosette still calls Medea out for being horrible to her, declares that she's sick of being toyed with, and storms off to go and get bullied some more in the real world, presumably. Well, that's better than probably better than being drowned, buried alive, or eaten. Wanted the confrontation to pack a bit of a punch, and to feel less ethereal and uninformed than the rest of the story, so I decided to commit here and actually give the two lead characters names. Medea is pretty straightforward for the name for a creepy witch. You know your Greek mythology, there's also the antagonistic character in Tanith Lee's The Silver Medal Lover called Medea, was a twin brother called Jason. Which may have influenced my decision. As for Rosette, she actually gets her name from Sadie's infamous 120 Days of Sodom. 120 Days is a horrible story, really, that I wouldn't recommend to anybody, but some of the names in it are very pretty, at least. Oh. 120 Days is a Colombe, a Hyacinth, and a Hebe, which are all names nice enough that I'd like to use them myself in other projects. Names, however, are associated with child characters who have been kidnapped for nefarious purposes. Their real names stripped from them by their wicked new masters in a further display of control. The child characters with aesthetic names in 120 Days aren't afforded bodily autonomy. They're even robbed of their identities. I suppose you could say it's ironic that I'd use such a name for It Gets So Lonely in Here's Lead, when reclaiming her name at the end of the story is what allows her to escape from her captor. I mostly chose the name. I think it's pretty and I've been wanting to use it for a while now. That's understandable. Oh, I can see that. Mechanics of Rosette's showdown with Medea was inspired by Fate Grand Order. In FGO, you, the player, assume the role of a silent lead who never speaks the story save for the odd choice option which pops up in the story. Choices which, for the most part, only offer slight variations to the script. You never get a direct dialogue, but when it needs to piece together dialogue, they often do it through like a series of consecutive choices you can make, which gives inputs dialogue into the story. And even occasions like this, where there's just like one default bit of dialogue to signify that you, the main character, are chiming in. So these choices, though there are a few instances in the story, typically during serious moments when your allies are in grave danger and you have to take a stand, where you are given an option to directly interact with your opponents. In these instances, the player will be presented with a bunch of different dialogue options back to back inside choice boxes that you can press. Suppose the interactivity of having to physically click on your dialogue so your character can say it makes it feel more like you are actually facing off against an enemy. Like the main character in FGO, Rosette doesn't have any dialogue directly attributed to her in the story, but she does get a chance to speak for herself, so to say. Using the choice bubbles that were previously used to determine which route you wanted to experience. Not groundbreaking, I suppose, but it was a lot of fun to implement. And it really works It really works. It keeps the whole story framed as Medea's narration. And it's a really... It's a really smart decision. It keeps the whole thing framed as Medea's narration. And makes it feel naturally like Rosette is breaking out of Medea's game and truly defying Medea's game, Medea's perception, and leaving on her own will. I thought it was pretty satisfying to give our long-suffering heroine a chance to speak for back against her tormentor or nothing else. Mermaid, Gravedigger, and Princess, alas, still don't get names of their own. They're consigned to their roles as fairy tale reps. Rather than fleshed out characters, so they're a little more enigmatic than both Rosette and Medea. Imagine these girls as fabrications created by Medea in any event, who only exist to torment Rosette. So maybe you could think of them as Water Medea, Earth Medea, and Blood Medea, maybe. Ah, yes, of course. Wasn't a direct inspiration, but I also feel like there are also some serious Higurashi Sotsu vibes in here. Just thinking, I wrote that final confrontation that reminded me of something. Now I'm not starting to wonder if Rosette and Medea have Sadako and Rika vibes. Burn Castle and Lambda Delta vibes. Oh! Wasn't really intentional, but it might have been a subconscious influence, and I'm a pretty big Ryukishi fan. Fair. I should wrap up the notes of this VN. Real this time. Once again, I hope you enjoyed your time spent with it. A lot of fun putting together. I think I enjoyed it more because of the mechanics than because of the story itself. It's like a bit of a departure from your usual VNs, minus once upon a windswept night, I suppose, which also did some strange things. Ooh. It was fun trying to get the code to work exactly how I wanted it. Now, if you're all worried about Medea, who's been left on her own in the woods, you can go back and check up on her. Oh. You wouldn't want her to be lonely now, would you? Doing that would reset all your data, though, so don't be making contracts with that which is willy-nilly. Your actions do have consequences. Ah. Big Baron Castle vibes, anyway. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I suppose I could... I suppose in theory it's possible to go speed run through here and actually read the first set of notes. Do I do that? No, because finishing wiped out all my data. I suppose that's what happens when you finish the game for good. I mean... Yeah, I think at this point it's fair enough for us to sign off on. Call it a night. Oh, man. Best to end on a good note, I think. Well, there are 2 achievements left I haven't gotten yet. But maybe... Actually... Why not? Let's go check on Medea. Oh. I am sitting in a forest. It is late at night, and the sky is black as pitch. There's nothing to light my way save for the moon's milky glow, but its rays cannot reach me, not properly. The trees which surround me, jutting out of the earth like eerie monuments to a foreign god, are blotting out most of the light. If I were running, I would not be able to see where I was going. But such concerns are trivial to me. There is nowhere at all, after all, for me to run to. I'm just poking around here a second. I am all alone. You have abandoned me. You made a contract with me once when you wished for a friend. It's a contract I swore I would fulfill upon my good name. But you betrayed me. Oh, Rosette, why did you have to go? My days were intolerably dull and tedious without you there to amuse me. Your company slaked my boredom nicely. But now that you have gone, what boredom has returned fourfold. It is so consuming, I fear I might go mad from it. I have not, granted, gone maddened already. Only there were another mortal out there, one who might keep me company. If only. Oh? Perhaps I spoke too soon. It seemed that another has intruded upon my moonlit solitude after all, far more quickly than I was expecting. How very fortuitous. Well met, stranger. Does the moon not look beautiful tonight? Why, it is almost as if our encounter was preordained by a being far greater than both of us. But that, of course, is a foolish thought. There are few beings out there more powerful than myself. Now then, would you care to create a contract with me and relieve the events of this night anew? Oh. Contract. Hmm. We've saved here. That does actually. I'm gonna be sneaky. I'm not gonna make a contract. Freedom. Oh, do you not wish to stay with me, dear one? Very well. You are awfully cruel, but I can understand how you feel. I'm a benevolent witch, regardless of what some people might say. I would never force you to do anything, not against your will. My love is, and as always has been, reciprocal in nature, though she did not appreciate that. Now that is all, would you like to run along? No good can come, you know, of soliciting with witches in the dead of the night. You'd best be on your way, and quickly. Otherwise I might just change my mind, after all. It gets so lonely in here. Yep. There we go. Alright. And now we have 100%ed achievements. Now we have 100%ed this game. And we can do it without making a contract with Medea. I think legitimately making a contract with Medea in this state will reset the persistent save data. Alright. So fortunately, this achievement procs without having to worry about anything within here. Now, we can end off for the night. Let's see who else is currently online. Oops. What game is this? If someone playing Batten Kaitos Origins... No, original Batten Kaitos. Or is this a game? Or is this just, are they just hanging out? It is just chatting. Let's see, there's karaoke. We have a good draggy playing EverQuest. The girl names witch therapy or something. Yes, honestly. Although Ebi did say in the notes that Rosette was just going to go back to the conservatoire to just get bullied more, but if anything came from this, all this dying, like if I had to interpret the events that Rosette went through, all this dying and the way Rosette finally broke free from it, if I had to interpret this, headcanon this, I feel like this is going to lead her to learn to stand up for herself a bit more. And if she stands up for herself a bit more, starts giving less of a reaction to everyone tormenting her, it might actually improve her situation. Might make her less of a target, might give her a chance to survive, so to speak. Or might honestly better her life, so to speak. In a weird way. Is that weird for me to say? Alas. Alright, now. We are here to figure out what we are raiding tonight. I'm thinking here. Let's see who all I recognize round here. Yeah, I think my money is on raiding the Nova Swarm. Playing Baton Kaitos. Oh, we're saying Medea needs therapy. That is also true, though. Medea does need therapy, and just... Yeah, I think this experience is going to be good for Rosette. It's obviously freaking traumatizing for Rosette, but I think ultimately, if he comes away from this with anything, it's the determination to stand up for herself more. And that will be a net positive in the end, after all of this heck. Okay. She's sticking out till graduation. Yes. It's very good, and hopefully... Medea is lost in her boredom, but, hopefully there is something in mind of the, witch therapy that she can get down the line, hopefully.